Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, the Rebirth of Tang today. My channel isn't monetized, so if you're able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Chapters 521 through 540 of the previous episode. Tang San masterfully guides his ally, Big Cat, to awaken the god-killing domain and secure a brutal tournament victory. Meanwhile, Mei Gongzi dominates her match using spatial techniques Tang San taught her. Recognizing Tang San's immense value, the Peacock Great Demon King attempts to recruit him. Tang San refuses but swears a blood oath of eternal allegiance to Mei Gongzi, earning the king's approval. After advancing to the top 16 by forfeit, Tang San successfully fuses his Golden Rock and Wind Dragon bloodlines, significantly enhancing his physical strength for the upcoming finals. Thank you. Now, let's get back to the story of Soul Land 5, the Rebirth of Tang San. Gu Lan sat dazed on the ground, not even bothering to pick up its Eye of the Thunder God. Its expression was a mixture of emotions. This battle had not only cost it the chance to advance into the finals, but also shattered its fighting spirit. Yet looking at its blood-soaked opponent, it felt an overwhelming fear that eclipsed even the massive sense of humiliation. It was pure, unadulterated fear. Big Cat had won, securing this crucial victory and becoming the first contestant in the top 16 to advance to the quarterfinals. Of course, to achieve this, he had paid a huge price. He had been quite badly beaten during the group stage, yet when everyone thought he would be the weaker one, he displayed even greater strength and defeated the opponent in the round of 16. Who was to say he wouldn't do the same in the quarterfinals and fight with even greater strength than before? Big Cat roared toward the VIP seats where the lion and tiger demons were seated. Although the roar caused more blood to gush from his wounds, he didn't care. At this moment, the pent-up frustration from many years seemed to be completely released, leaving him with a sense of exhilaration and clarity. To him, his injuries were insignificant compared to this newfound sense of enlightenment, which clearly marked the fact that he had reached an entirely new level. The first match of the round of 16 was exceptionally brutal, with both sides sustaining heavy injuries. The winner, against all expectations, was the Lion-Tiger clan contestant. Not the rich and powerful one, but the one without any backing. This was undoubtedly an unexpected upset, but it was also unquestionable that Big Cat had now firmly placed the Lion-Tiger clan on the historical stage of the demon and nymph races. This was a match witnessed by emperors, after all. The arena was cleared, and both contestants left the stage. As Big Cat walked off the stage, the effects of the god-killing domain began to fade, and intense weakness accompanied by severe pain started to set in. Tang San was already waiting for him at the exit, but he wasn't alone. There was also a burly male with long golden hair standing there. As Big Cat walked down the stage with the help of the staff, Tang San turned to the burly man with golden hair beside him and asked, "Clan leader, are you satisfied with my choice for your clan?" The man beside him was none other than the leader of the Golden Lion clan, the Golden Lion King. The Golden Lion King had arrived toward the end of the match, accompanied by the same Golden Lion who had conducted the auction for the God-slaying sword at the Ancestral Court's grand auction. When the latter saw Azura, he knew why the latter was waiting there. The human had fulfilled his promise. During the auction, Azura had promised to bring a capable successor for the God-slaying sword to the Golden Lion clan within 7 days. But when they met afterward, he told the Golden Lion that his partner, the one who would wield the God-slaying sword, would participate in the Ancestral Court Elite Tournament. What better way to prove his worthiness than through the tournament? Naturally, the Golden Lion clan had been watching, observing each of Big Cat's matches. As they saw Big Cat defeat strong opponents and advance step by step, they became genuinely interested. After all, despite Big Cat being a lion tiger, he carried the blood of the Golden Lion clan. Their initial rejection of Big Cat's lion-tiger heritage gradually turned into recognition with each of his victories. When Big Cat successfully advanced to the top 16, the Golden Lion King had no doubts that he was qualified to inherit the God-slaying sword. However, Big Cat's identity as a member of the Lion-Tiger clan still made the Golden Lion clan wary. After all, this involved the Tiger Demons as well. Fully supporting Big Cat would mean acknowledging and even aiding the Lion-Tiger clan, allowing them to join. The lion and tiger races were different. The tiger race had the towering presence of the white tiger demon emperor to hold the fort. Meanwhile, the lion demons couldn't afford another failure, or they would truly fall into decline. But after witnessing today's battle and seeing Big Cat defeat Gu Lan with his immense strength and battle experience, the Golden Lion King had no more hesitation. He was a straightforward person. Now that he had made an official decision, He didn't wait a single minute longer than necessary. The Golden Lion King nodded to Tang San and said, "Our clan will reward you generously. Big Cat, I am Gong Wudi, the leader of the Golden Lion clan." The latter part was directed at Big Cat, and the clan leader's expression was solemn yet tinged with complexity as he looked at the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint. Big Cat was filled with mixed emotions as well. He had personally experienced the indifference of the lion and tiger races toward the Lion-Tiger clan. He had seen them ignore his clan's descent into near extinction, treating them as cursed without a hint of sympathy or compassion. How could he not be angry? How could he not be in pain? Yet at this moment he also felt immense pride. Through his own strength, he had made the foremost figure of the lion race acknowledge him and his legacy. Overwhelmed by these feelings, Big Cat was momentarily speechless. Tang San stepped in to smooth things over, saying, "Big Cat is seriously injured. Let's treat him first to avoid delaying the subsequent matches." "Right?" Gong Wudi nodded, signaling to the Golden Lion beside him. The Golden Lion who had conducted the auction handed a porcelain bottle to Big Cat, saying, "This is our clan's sacred healing medicine, the Golden Pill. That should." Big Cat looked at it but did not reach out to take it. His gaze was defiant, and despite his lower cultivation level, his blood-soaked presence made even the stronger Demon King feel a shiver of fear. Tang San stepped forward, took the medicine, and said apologetically to Gong Wudi, "Clan leader, I will take him back to the rest area to begin treatment immediately to prevent his injuries from worsening." His match was the third one today, so there was still time. The round of 16 was bound to take a while to conclude. "Yes," Gong Wudi nodded. Tang San then supported Big Cat, helping him toward the rest area. He had his own match later, so he couldn't take Big Cat back to the hotel, but Big Cat's injuries needed immediate attention. Fighting someone so powerful and well-equipped could not be done with no consequences. Back in the rest area, Tang San helped the nearly unconscious Big Cat sit down. He first used his internal energy to seal off the blood vessels around the more severe wounds to prevent excessive blood loss, then took out the medicine bottle. There was only one pill inside, which to Tang San only confirmed that it was extremely valuable. It looked like a piece of gold and felt quite remarkable to the senses. He took it out and placed it in Big Cat's mouth. Big Cat did not refuse the pill. Despite his deep-seated hostility toward the lion and tiger races, he knew that for the Lion-Tiger clan to truly grow, it was necessary to mend that relationship. "Thank you," he said. The moment he swallowed the pill, his bloodline power instantly felt thicker, and his aura recovered somewhat. "Why thank me?" Tang San smiled. "Rest well. In the next match, you probably won't have to go on stage barehanded." With the Golden Lion King personally recognizing Big Cat's abilities today, it meant Big Cat would be allowed to wield the God-slaying sword. Having that divine weapon in hand would undoubtedly make Big Cat even more formidable. Big Cat weakly raised his left hand and lightly pounded his chest, expressing that words were unnecessary. Everything was understood. Then he closed his eyes and used his bloodline power to activate the pill's healing properties. Seeing that Big Cat was now in stable condition, Tang San stood up. Mei Gongzi came to his side and said, "Big brother, go and handle your match. I'll watch over him." The second match of the round of 16 was underway, and Tang San's match was the third, so he needed to head to the waiting area. "Okay." Tang San nodded and turned to leave. Mei Gongzi's voice came from behind. "Good luck, and be careful." Tang San turned back with a smile, giving her a thumbs up before heading toward the waiting area. Big Cat had advanced to the quarterfinals. Now it was his turn. He went into the waiting area and silently waited for his turn to compete. At this moment, the second match was in full swing. From Tang San's position, he couldn't see what was going on due to the height of the battle stage, but he could see countless flickering lights and feel the surging bloodline power on the stage. It was clear that the clash between the two contestants had reached a fever pitch. It was only natural. At this stage, the competitor's fighting spirit was more intense than ever. Making it to the top 16 was already a significant milestone, but having come this far, who wouldn't want to advance further under the watchful eyes of the emperors? The top 16 and the top 8 were entirely different things, as were the top 8 and the top 4. As for those who reached the finals and the one among them who took the championship, they would undoubtedly draw the attention of all the emperors, to the point where they might fight for the allegiance of the champion. If not for this, how could a divine weapon like the Eye of the Thunder God appear on stage? The reason Big Cat could make the Golden Lion King personally come to greet him was that he could defeat an opponent who had a divine weapon without using one himself, which fully demonstrated his immense strength and potential. This gave the Golden Lion King hope. Maybe one day an emperor would rise that would support his clan. Tang San focused his mind, but it was not in order to actively sense the situation on the stage. Instead, he closed his eyes to rest and focused on himself. The only item he had that could truly be called a divine item was the space-time beacon. However, he wouldn't use it in front of the emperors. If they discovered its true function, they might confiscate it. Since he was a human with no backing, any of them could simply act without hesitation. So what other weapons could he use? Not many. Even Sky Shatterer was insufficient for this level of competition. Now that he was fighting the top 16 elites of the continent, he had to assume his opponents would have at least one divine weapon. Without a divine weapon, he had to rely on his own strength. With the emperors watching, it was even more challenging to conceal his abilities while still winning the match. First, he definitely couldn't use the discerning eye of heaven, including the polar luck domain. Under the watchful eye of the celestial fox demon emperor, any use of these abilities would be immediately noticed. He had used the golden rock transformation before. Although it had evolved after absorbing the wind dragon's bloodline, it was still fundamentally the same and could be used without much concern. The lion tiger transformation was the same. These two abilities had been at the core of his tactics in previous battles. Could he reveal a third bloodline now? That would certainly not be optimal. The yin-yang energy vortex was hidden and extremely hard to detect, but it couldn't be used directly. But then, if his opponent was too strong and he couldn't win with just the lion tiger and dragon rock transformations, which ability was he supposed to use? There were only two options left: time and space. Over this period, Tang San's overall strength had significantly increased. In addition to reaching the 9th order, his bloodline imprints had also made great strides. But he had to figure out the optimal way to use his newfound power in direct combat, and since he was not at that stage just yet, he really might have to reveal a new ability. Although he didn't particularly value the individual competition, and he was still fully intent on letting either Big Cat or Mei Gongzi win, a favorable draw meant that he could clean up some of their opponents and be more certain that they would advance. As he gradually came to a decision about his course of action, the intense bloodline fluctuations on the stage gradually subsided. The second match of the round of 16 had concluded. Tang San's eyes narrowed. He had elevated his internal energy, spiritual energy, and physique to their peak. His divine consciousness was retracted, carefully hidden in the depths of his sea of consciousness under a powerful shield of spiritual power. For today's battle, he would need to display some genuine power, but not that part of his genuine power. A staff member approached him, signaling him to wait. The contestants from the previous match were exiting from the other side, and the stage needed some cleaning and fixing to ensure it was ready for the next match. At that moment, Mei Gongzi's voice came through his earpiece. "Big brother, good luck." "Don't worry," Tang San replied softly. Knowing that Mei Gongzi was watching filled him with determination. After about 5 minutes, the staff signaled that he could step onto the stage. The third match of the round of 16, Tang San's turn. With steady steps, maintaining a consistent rhythm, Tang San slowly walked onto the stage. He immediately became the focus of everyone's attention. Today, there was only one stage, so all the spectators, including the emperors, were watching the same match. Although he didn't know how many emperors were present in the VIP boxes, he knew that this was the greatest gathering of powerful beings on the entire demon continent. As he stepped onto the stage, Tang San felt a surge of exhilaration. After more than a decade in this world, he was finally standing on its highest stage, under the gaze of its mightiest beings. At that moment, he stood tall, his bearing elegant yet proud. A pride that belonged to humanity. Demons and nymphs treat humans as mere pawns. But from today onward, the tide will turn. In the future, I will make all of them witness my strength. One day, I will lead humans to stand at the pinnacle and rival the demon and nymph races. The celestial fox demon emperor sat in his VIP room, calmly observing the matches outside. As Tang San took the stage, the celestial fox demon emperor's attention immediately focused on him. This is the one favored by the crystal. Since when did that person favor a human? But I have to admit, the choice is indeed impressive. A human making it to the top 16 in the individual competition is unprecedented. He had all of Tang San's past records. Upon discovering Tang San's connection with the Crystal Demon Emperor, he had specifically reviewed them, finding this human quite intriguing. This human's fortune appeared strange to him, fluctuating between strong and weak, elusive and erratic. But just as Tang San stepped onto the stage, the celestial fox demon emperor was momentarily dazed. He seemed to glimpse an explosive surge of fortune, but it flickered briefly and then vanished silently as if it had never appeared. "This human is truly unique," mused the celestial fox demon emperor. At his level, with his massive power and centuries of life, very few things could pique his interest. After all, he could be considered the foremost figure in the ancestral court. The crystal demon emperor or the sunborn nymph emperor might be more powerful in combat, but in terms of influence, they were leagues behind him. A human capturing his attention would certainly be a point of interest to the other demon emperors. As for what kind of being Tang San was, some of the audience definitely assumed he was from a powerful demon or nymph clan, but how could an emperor not know better? For the celestial fox demon emperor, just one glance was enough to tell that Tang San was a true blue human. Tang San naturally knew that he was the center of attention at this moment, but his focus was already on his opponent across the field. Seeing this opponent, Tang San's pupils contracted slightly. Enemies really walked the same narrow path, and they were bound to meet whether they wanted to or not. Where did his wind dragon bloodline come from? It was obtained when he severely injured the wind dragon contestant with his yin-yang energy. But that wind dragon was not alone. He had a teammate, a female from the immortal Flame Phoenix clan. When the match ended, the immortal Flame Phoenix had bitterly threatened him and Mei Gongzi, saying they would meet again in the individual competition. Unexpectedly, in the first match of the top 16, he was actually facing her. During the draw earlier, Tang San had been wholly focused on how to deal with the celestial fox demon emperor and hadn't paid much attention to the other contestants. Only now did he realize whom he was up against. Although they were separated by hundreds of meters, he could hear her voice with perfect clarity. He smiled calmly. "Yes, we meet again, and it'll end up in the same way." The immortal Flame Phoenix replied coldly, "I hope your strength is on par with your blabber." As she spoke, she raised her hand and pressed it against her forehead. In the next moment, 3 golden lines emerged from her glabella, extending upward into her hairline. Her red hair was instantly dyed with a layer of gold, and it surged and flew like dancing golden red flames. At the same time, her eyes also turned golden red, and a scorching aura burst out instantly. Seeing those golden lines, Tang San's expression became serious. He understood that this was similar to Mei Gongzi's peacock crown. In the Peacock Demon clan, what did the peacock golden crown represent? It represented the qualification to inherit the Peacock King title in the future. It was a manifestation of a powerful bloodline, and so its appearance on a member of the immortal Flame Phoenix clan naturally implied a similar situation. Moreover, the changes in her case were more evident than what happened with Mei Gongzi, which meant that her bloodline power was likely among the greatest in the immortal Flame Phoenix clan. Tang San was even somewhat relieved that when facing their wind-fire combination earlier, he had chosen to severely injure the wind dragon with a sacrificial strike. Otherwise, if this opponent had fully displayed her strength, it would have been a real pain for them. What Tang San didn't know was that his opponent was not only a leader among the young generation of the immortal Flame Phoenix clan, but the leader. Her name was Ji Guanlin, and she had been designated to become a successor of the Undying Demon Emperor. To be designated as a successor naturally meant inheriting the title of the Undying Demon Emperor and becoming an emperor herself. This showed just how extraordinary her talent was. She had always been nurtured with the best resources in the clan and given the best support. However, Ji Guanlin had shown not only exceptional talent since childhood, but also a strong rebellious streak. As it often happens with talented people, her personality was proportional to her talent. In theory, her future spouse had to be from the same clan, in order to ensure the purity of her bloodline and the strength of her offspring. As a direct bloodline inheritor of the Undying Demon Emperor with an extremely strong bloodline, this was not just a recommendation but her duty. But that was not the case. During one of her journeys, she met that wind dragon contestant, and the dragon and the phoenix quickly fell in love. It was said that the union of dragon and phoenix was a good omen. Both were extremely powerful races with strong genes, and their future offspring would unquestionably inherit remarkable talents from either side. But the problem was that Ji Guanlin was no ordinary immortal flame phoenix. She was designated as the next successor of the Undying Demon Emperor. There could be no mistakes. How could her spouse be from another clan? Moreover, the Wind Dragon clan was not particularly strong among the dragon clans. Had it been a member of the Fire Dragon clan, the immortal Flame Phoenix lineage might have found it more acceptable. This caused a huge uproar in the ancestral court, almost leading to a clash between the dragon and phoenix races. But Ji Guanlin's personality was extremely strong. Naturally, she wouldn't have been selected as a future undying demon emperor if she wasn't strong-willed. She was determined to be with the Wind Dragon youngster. She was willing to give up her succession rights for him, and she even threatened to take her own life. Thus, she was severely punished by the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan. Not only stripped of her inheritance rights, but also expelled from the Immortal Flame Phoenix lineage. Another descendant with the Phoenix Golden Mark was chosen as the successor. Naturally, Ji Guanlin was greatly dissatisfied with this. In her view, the one who replaced her was inferior in talent and strength, and her future potential was equally lacking. Why could they replace her? But she had made her bed and had no choice but to lie in it. After leaving the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan, she quickly realized that this bed was full of thorns. Without the clan's support, all her cultivation resources were cut off, and due to him being a direct cause for the conflict between the Dragon and Phoenix clans, her Wind Dragon partner also lost his support. This Dragon-Phoenix pair had suddenly become a dying penniless pair. This was especially tough for Ji Guanlin, who had grown up with only the best of the best resources from the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan. The sudden drop in supply severely affected her cultivation speed. Based on her original progress, she should have had a chance to reach the 10th order 2 or 3 years ago. But until now, she still hadn't tried to take that step. No matter how rebellious she was, she knew that tribulation crossing was not easy. The stronger the bloodline, the more dangerous the lightning tribulation, and a single mistake could be fatal. Therefore, she and her boyfriend, the Wind Dragon, came to participate in this competition for 2 main reasons. First, because the doubles competition gave the Dragon Phoenix pair a significant advantage. Second, because the rival who replaced her was also participating. She wanted to use her strength to prove to the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan that she was the best choice for the successor and reclaim her inheritance rights. She believed that if she won the championship, then no matter how displeased the clan was with her previous actions, they would never let her be recruited by other demon emperors. At the same time, if they could achieve good results in the doubles competition, it would also convince the clan that the Wind Dragon contestant's potential was enough to give him the right to be their son-in-law. And in all fairness, the Wind-Fire combination was in fact incredibly powerful. However, things didn't go as planned. Just when they were at the peak of their ambition, and the Wind Dragon had even given up the individual competition to focus on performing well in the doubles, they encountered. They weren't even able to make good use of the Windfire Tornado. Ji Guanlin had been considering finishing them off with this one combination attack and hiding her strength for the finals. But Azura's sacrificial strike and the Peacock Princess's powerful spatial abilities forcefully broke through the Windfire Tornado and severely injured her partner. To save his life, Ji Guanlin had to compromise with Azura and the Peacock Princess, losing the match in an incredibly humiliating manner. And with that, they failed to advance to the finals of the doubles competition. It was only natural that Ji Guanlin hated Azura and the Peacock Princess to the core. She threatened them, reminding them that they would eventually meet in the individual competition. During the draw, she saw them and silently prayed to face one of them. And her prayers were answered. She drew Azura. The opportunity for revenge had come. In terms of strength, Ji Guanlin was one of the strongest below the 10th order in the entire Phoenix race. Her strength was indeed much greater than that of the Wind Dragon contestant. She had chosen him for his appearance and because his wind aided her fire. Did she regret it now? Without the support of her clan, her cultivation speed significantly decreased. If this continued, her future chances of becoming an emperor were extremely slim. Thus, this ancestral court elite competition was the most important opportunity in her eyes. As long as she could win the championship or at least the semifinals, even if her clan still didn't want her, she was certain that she would gain the favor and support of other emperors, who would provide her with enough resources for cultivation. The doubles competition was already lost. Failure in the individual competition was not an option. With old grudges coupled with a new purpose, how could she not be filled with intense killing intent when facing her enemy on the competition stage? Sensing the terrifying aura of her bloodline, Tang San's expression also turned serious. His opponent's strength was so formidable that it would be challenging to contend with her if she used a divine weapon. To his surprise, Ji Guanlin actually didn't take out any weapons. Instead, the blinding golden-red flames continued to rise and intensify as if there was no end. Platinum-colored force burst from Tang San's body. It was the Lion-Tiger Golden Force. A pair of radiant golden wings unfolded behind him. The same golden rock wings that had brought him victory in the previous matches. No one noticed the dense scales under the sharp golden rock feathers. Tang San suddenly soared into the air with a flap of his wings, and his opponent also unfolded a pair of massive phoenix wings behind her. Compared to Tang San's, her wings were much larger, with a wingspan of over 15 meters. With a powerful flap of these wings, the golden-red flames turned half the sky the same color. The blazing golden-red flames continuously devoured all the fire element in the air, and the golden lines on her forehead grew even brighter. In the sky, red clouds were faintly gathering, a clear sign of impending tribulation clouds. Ji Guanlin had clearly reached the absolute peak of the Ninth Order and was ready to undergo tribulation at any moment. In another place, she wouldn't dare to fight with all her might, as it could attract tribulation clouds, which would be a huge problem without proper preparation. But here, at the Ancestral Court Elite Competition, she didn't need to worry about that. With so many emperors present, tribulation clouds couldn't do anything to her. The emperors could easily disperse the clouds. Ji Guanlin let out a loud phoenix cry, and her massive wings flapped violently. Instantly, countless golden-red light points shot toward Tang San. A closer look would reveal that these were golden-red flames shaped like phoenix feathers, filling the entire sky. Each golden-red feather looked almost tangible, and they spread out like an opening net, directly enveloping Tang San. Tang San squinted slightly and instantly moved out. With a fierce flap of his wings, his speed surged. After devouring the Wind Dragon bloodline power, his golden rock imprint evolved to the first tier. It improved the wings significantly in terms of both endurance due to the dragon blood and instant acceleration due to the increased control over wind. The sudden acceleration produced a piercing sonic boom, and Tang San shot forward like a blazing arrow. The rain of feathers was extremely dense. Even the best flying skills wouldn't allow the user to completely avoid it. But Tang San had no intention of doing that. Instead, he used the repellent aspect of the Lion-Tiger Golden Force to deflect the Phoenix Fire rain in front of him, heading straight for Ji Guanlin like a meteor chasing the moon. With his previous experience fighting the scorching sunflower, Tang San knew that when he was against opponents with such powerful bloodlines, he couldn't let them fully unleash their abilities. The best way was to defeat them in the shortest time possible. However, as he rushed out of the fire rain's coverage and charged toward Ji Guanlin, he suddenly sensed something was wrong. The feathers that should have been deflected or destroyed were in fact very much intact and clung to his Lion-Tiger Golden Force. Even stranger, the fiery feathers seemed to be generating an inexplicable force that pulled them together. It caused a chain reaction. The more feathers gathered in one place, the more powerful this force seemed to be. A large number of flame feathers were now rapidly converging toward Tang San. He felt like a bird caught in a giant net. His speed was continuously decreasing and his momentum weakening as he was surrounded by the scorching heat and more fiery feathers swept toward him. What a powerful innate skill. Tang San immediately understood the situation he was facing. Ji Guanlin's move was extremely ingenious and incredibly powerful. The feathers appearing scattered was nothing more than an illusion. In fact, they were all connected. This most certainly required a tremendous amount of bloodline power, but the results were obvious to anyone. There would be no escape if he were caught by these powerful fire feathers imbued with Phoenix True Fire. What would follow was, undoubtedly, an even more violent attack. Keenly aware of the danger, Tang San made a quick decision. He suddenly flapped his wings, slowing down together with the entangling fire feathers. Then, with one more flap of his wings, he propelled himself in the opposite direction, fleeing away from Ji Guanlin. The fire feathers were coming at him from all directions, clearly meant to catch him in a cage. As he stopped abruptly and flew in the opposite direction, the feathers clinging to his Lion-Tiger Golden Force kept going with the momentum for an instant, then were drawn along with Tang San. The surrounding feathers also recoiled and converged toward Tang San once more. By the time he was 1,000 meters away, a huge tail of fire was trailing behind him like the tail of a comet. Seeing this, even Ji Guanlin was momentarily stunned. She had never seen an opponent doing something. This was the Phoenix Fire Rain, a secret technique of the immortal Flame Phoenix clan that was only taught to those like her, who had the qualification to be the successor of an emperor. It was an all-encompassing wide-area technique that could control the flow of an entire battlefield, and once a number of feathers clung to someone, escaping was practically impossible. And once the enemy was enveloped by Phoenix True Fire, there could be only one outcome. They would be reduced to ashes. This was why she had ignited her Phoenix Golden Mark right at the start. Tang San hadn't paid much attention to her, but she had always watched Tang San and Mei Gongzi. She was, of course, wary of Tang San's incredible flying speed. In terms of flight speed, neither the Phoenixes nor anybody else really could compare to the Golden Rock clan. Moreover, Tang San had also demonstrated immense strength in previous matches. Thus, she hoped to restrict him comprehensively right from the start. Even if the Phoenix Fire Rain didn't burn him to death, it could at least damage his wings, preventing him from flying or launching a powerful attack like the one he had done during the doubles match. Mid to long-range attacks were the specialty of the immortal Flame Phoenix lineage, and if she got the chance to strike, she would do so ruthlessly. However, Tang San's extremely quick reaction thwarted her plan. The Phoenix Fire Rain stuck to the Lion Tiger Golden Force, and dozens of feathers were continuously burning Tang San's force. Even if Tang San deactivated it, the flames would follow his energy into his body and burn him from within. They were extremely troublesome. But right now, this Phoenix Fire Rain could only follow behind like a comet's tail, unable to cling to him. As long as he kept flying, the fiery feathers could only follow him. Although the Phoenix Fire Rain was relentless, any energy detached from its source would eventually deplete. Tang San was expending physical effort to fly, while Ji Guanlin was using up her Phoenix True Fire. Suddenly, Tang San turned around in the air and instantly flew back toward Ji Guanlin, bringing the Phoenix Fire Rain trailing behind him and the VIP part. A tall man with short golden-red hair saw this scene and couldn't help but show a look of surprise. He muttered, "Well, that's new. Who would have thought of such a method to get away from the Phoenix Fire Rain? All right, Guanlin, let me see how you handle this." This man who had the right to sit in a room next to the Celestial Fox Demon Emperors was the third-ranked person in the Empyrean Dominion, the leader of the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan and the King of Phoenixes, the Eternal Inferno Undying Demon Emperor. Ji Guanlin's stubbornness back then had truly angered him, to the point where he even expelled his youngest daughter from the clan. However, he was still her father, and Ji Guanlin had always been his favorite since she was young. If not for his indulgence, she wouldn't have developed such a rebellious personality. But regret was too late. The Undying Demon Emperor could only hope that his daughter would mature through the hardships she faced outside. This Ancestral Court Elite competition was a massive opportunity for Ji Guanlin, but nothing more than a stepping stone for her in the Undying Demon Emperor's eyes. Although the other successors' qualifications were not much inferior to Ji Guanlin's, that one was not his direct blood relative. Even as a Demon Emperor, how could he not have his own selfish desires? Through her experiences outside, his daughter had clearly matured a lot. Although she hadn't broken through to the 10th order yet, her foundation was extraordinary. And for a gifted heir like her, tempering was very important. It was quintessential for her future growth. As for that Wind Dragon, her so-called companion, it didn't matter much in the Undying Demon Emperor's heart. If she became an emperor, who could stop her from being with him? In fact, what did it matter even if his daughter had 10 other companions in the future? As long as she bore a pure-blooded descendant that could become her heir, that was enough for the clan. Now that she had reached the top 16, Ji Guanlin had a real chance to showcase her abilities and prove herself. Although the Undying Demon Emperor didn't believe his daughter could ultimately win the championship, as long as she could enter the top 4, that would be enough. He could bring her back to the clan at that time. In fact, he didn't even want her to win the championship, because he knew Ji Guanlin too well. If she won, her pride would soar to an all-time high. A moderate setback would be good for her personality. Therefore, when he heard that their Dragon Phoenix pair had lost in the doubles competition, the Undying Demon Emperor was actually secretly pleased. The defeat proved the inadequacy of the Wind Dragon, and it was indeed because the Wind Dragon's defenses had been breached and he had been severely injured that they had lost. This would inevitably cause his daughter to reconsider her relationship with the Wind Dragon youngster. Indeed, no one knows a daughter better than her father. He had personally come to watch today's match because he wanted to see how much Ji Guanlin had improved after these years of tempering outside. The eruption of Phoenix Fire Rain, with its powerful offensive and control, made the Undying Demon Emperor very satisfied. The Phoenix Fire Rain looked simple but was actually extremely difficult to execute. The most crucial part was that the Phoenix True Fire needed to be abundant. Each fire feather had to be imbued with it. Phoenix True Fire was the real star of the show. What surprised him was this human youth's strength. His control over his flight was at an incredibly high level, and the Undying Demon Emperor had never seen anyone do something to counter his clan's abilities. This made his expression turn somewhat grim. If other Demon Emperors with flying abilities faced him in the future, wouldn't they be able to mimic this method to counter his Phoenix Fire Rain? Thus, he now hoped Ji Guanlin could deliver a heavy blow to Tang San, showing these people that the fire of a phoenix wasn't just for show. In fact, Ji Guanlin was doing just that. As she faced the approaching Tang San, the massive wings behind her had shrunk to a third of their original size due to her use of the fire rain. But at the same time, the golden marks on her forehead had become exceptionally bright. Her eyes flickered with golden red light, and she flapped her wings violently. She didn't retreat. Facing Tang San's charge, likely a sacrificial strike, she chose to confront it head-on. In an instant, she transformed into a massive golden red phoenix, charging relentlessly at Tang San. This put Tang San in a situation where he was being attacked from both front and back. Once he collided with Ji Guanlin, the phoenix fire rain following behind would engulf him instantly. As for Ji Guanlin, these flames were her own, so how could they bring her harm? At this moment, Tang San was once again in a disadvantageous position. The golden red sky seemed to have completely enveloped him. But as they were about to collide, Ji Guanlin noticed the look in Tang San's eyes. There was no panic, only a chilling coldness. This coldness sent a shiver down Ji Guanlin's spine, and her bloodline aura was momentarily suppressed. At that instant, purple-golden light burst forth from Tang San's eyes. The blinding purple-golden light pierced Ji Guanlin's eyes like lightning bolts. This was an instant mental shock, an unavoidable attack. Ji Guanlin felt her sea of consciousness surge violently, and half of her flames dissipated instantly. This attack was too sudden and too powerful. Tang San's wings flapped more vigorously, increasing his speed. Seizing this moment, he forcibly charged in. In an instant, they collided fiercely. Rushing forward, Tang San brought with him a gust of wind. In an instant, the force surrounding him seemed to change color. Before the purple-golden light in his eyes had fully receded, he was already in front of Ji Guanlin. His hands circled before him, and a strange power burst forth, creating a void in the phoenix true fire in front of Ji Guanlin. He flapped his wings forcefully and propelled himself forward, then instantly folded his wings as he pierced through the curtain of fire. His right palm flew directly at Ji Guanlin's chest. Everything happened in but an instant. No one had expected Ji Guanlin to suddenly lose control of her phoenix true fire. The spectators, including the nobles in the VIP seats and even the emperors in the VIP rooms, all sensed Tang San's powerful burst of spiritual power. At that moment, his spiritual power completely overpowered Ji Guanlin's, unleashing an incredibly strong spiritual shock. Ji Guanlin, being a formidable warrior, responded to this shock with golden ripples emanating from the phoenix golden mark on her forehead, quickly stabilizing her sea of consciousness. And even before it was fully stabilized, she activated her innate ability. Intense golden red flames erupted, not outward but inward, causing her entire body to burn fiercely. When Tang San's palm struck her chest, he felt an incredible heat. Even with the protection of the yin-yang energy and the resistance of the lion-tiger golden force, he was still affected. Of course, Ji Guanlin didn't have it easy either. Tang San's palm strike included not only the yin-yang energy but also the lion-tiger golden force, along with a little bit of teleportation. Yes, after careful consideration, Tang San decided that if a third bloodline was to be discovered, the space attribute was the most suitable. After all, he came from Kali City, home of the Peacock Demon Clan, and participated in the doubles competition with the Peacock Demon Clan's little princess. The most reasonable way for someone like him to have a third bloodline was, of course, from the Peacock Demon Clan. Therefore, when she ignited herself, Tang San instantly activated his spatial power, forcibly transmitting his attack's force directly into Ji Guanlin's body. At the same time, his wings spread open again, preventing him from plunging in like a moth into a flame. Instead, he drew circles with his hands once more, using the mysterious circles of heaven. The surrounding flames silently extinguished within the mysterious circles of heaven. His technique didn't have the sense of grand power that Mei Gongzi's did, but it was smooth and efficient. It was not the moment for him to hide his divine techniques. If he got enveloped by the fierce flames, he would truly be in trouble. The space around him was distorted by the fire, making it hard to teleport, so he had no choice. As Tang San rushed out of the Phoenix True Fire's encirclement, a loud phoenix cry echoed from Ji Guanlin's position. Tang San's internal energy circulated at top speed, while the yin-yang vortex swirled inside him. It took considerable effort to extinguish the Phoenix True Fire on his wings, and his face was flushed, a sign of fire poisoning. Phoenix True Fire was extremely powerful, ranking even above the scorching sunflower nymph Solar True Fire. After all, although the Sunborn Nymph Emperor originated from the Scorching Sunflower clan, it only had the strength it had because of mutations, while the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan had multiple generations of demon emperors. In terms of heritage, the Immortal Flame Phoenix was undoubtedly one of the foremost on the demon continent. Tang San's internal energy operated silently, and the yin-yang vortex ground away at the fierce flames. The cycle of extreme yin and yang had become stable after continuous cultivation. Even if he was exposed to such extreme yang fire, he could still partially digest it. Additionally, after fusing with the Wind Dragon bloodline, the toughness of his body had greatly increased, and the invasion of the fire was not that profound, so even though he looked to be in trouble, the actual harm was minor. On the other hand, Ji Guanlin was not doing so well. The intense Phoenix True fire burning around her fluctuated violently, even bursting into clusters of sparks, which indicated her unstable condition. When she activated her innate ability, Tang San instantly knew what she was doing. The Immortal Flame Phoenix clan was named Immortal because their innate ability was Nirvana Rebirth. The Phoenix could be reborn in true fire. Although it didn't grant actual eternal life, as long as they still had Phoenix True fire, they could go through a rebirth and heal even the most severe injuries. Of course, Nirvana Rebirth touched upon the very essence of life. Although it could be used repeatedly, the more it was used, the greater the cost. Ji Guanlin's reaction was undeniably quick. When Tang San used his spiritual power to strike her, she sensed the danger. Although her spirit hadn't fully recovered, her body instinctively used Nirvana Rebirth. During a phoenix's rebirth, the surrounding Phoenix True fire was at its strongest. This was naturally a defensive measure, but in this particular situation, it was also an opportunity to strike back at Tang San. However, Tang San's had more fights than she'd had meals in her lifetime. Upon realizing her attempt at rebirth, he immediately ended his attack, used the mysterious circles of heaven to neutralize the surrounding Phoenix True fire, and quickly retreated, preventing her counterattack from succeeding. Meanwhile, Ji Guanlin's Nirvana process was far from smooth at this point. Tang San had used teleportation to inject a strand of yin-yang energy into her body at the critical moment when her rebirth was beginning. The yin-yang energy was extremely domineering. Once out of Tang San's control, it naturally caused a violent conflict. Most importantly, Ji Guanlin's Phoenix True fire was of extreme yang nature. The sudden imbalance from the injected yin-yang energy caused her to endure agony similar to what her boyfriend had experienced before. It even affected her Nirvana process, leading to her bloodline power becoming unstable and on the verge of exploding. One could see the distorted silhouette within the blazing Phoenix True fire, with flames surging and exploding into splashes of light rain, accompanied by Ji Guanlin's painful screeches. The spectators were all stunned. In particular, those who understood the process of an Immortal Flame Phoenix's rebirth were dumbfounded. What had happened? What kind of attack did that Azura's palm strike carry to cause a problem with the Nirvana rebirth? The great demon, King Referee, was in a dilemma. It was clear that Ji Guanlin was in a very bad state, but the match wasn't over yet. If he stopped the match now, it would mean Ji Guanlin's defeat. Although she had been expelled from the Phoenix Demon clan, she was once the Undying Demon Emperor's successor. Thus, he instinctively looked toward the VIP room where the Undying Demon Emperor was seated. A sigh echoed, and in the next moment, a golden-red figure appeared out of thin air beside Ji Guanlin. A brilliant golden-red light pillar enveloped her. Tang San immediately sensed that all the energy he had injected into Ji Guanlin, including the Lion-Tiger Golden Force and the yin-yang energy, had vanished. Ji Guanlin had turned into a pure mass of Phoenix True fire. Beside the blazing golden-red fire pillar stood a figure who appeared to be a middle-aged man. He stared at Tang San for a moment with a thoughtful look in his eyes. Interesting little fellow. Just being gazed at by those golden-red eyes, Tang San felt as if his soul was burning. He instinctively lowered his head, forcibly controlling his restless divine consciousness. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Naturally, the one who intervened to resolve Ji Guanlin's dire situation could not be any other than the eternal blazing Undying Demon Emperor. This top-tier powerhouse casually demonstrated his overwhelming strength. With a mere gesture, he incinerated all the foreign energies Tang San had injected into Ji Guanlin, leaving only the pure Phoenix True fire. The Undying Demon Emperor said indifferently, "She lost. If you have time, you can visit my immortal palace. Indeed, you're an interesting little fellow." With that, the golden-red light around him flashed, enveloping Ji Guanlin, who had turned into flames, and they both turned into a stream of light, returning to his room. The flames completely receded just before they entered the room, as if extinguished. With the vision of his discerning eye of heaven, Tang San faintly saw that the phoenix true fire Ji Guanlin had turned into was being taken into the sleeve of the undying demon emperor. He is indeed a top-tier being. Although Tang San couldn't sense with his divine consciousness, he could feel the terrifying energy fluctuations from the opponent. In a divine realm, this man would be a peak second-class god. To cultivate to this level in an ordinary plane was truly astonishing. Only once this was over did the great Demon King referee announce the result of the match. Tang San let out a long breath and nodded to the referee before turning to step off the stage. Red streams of air continued to flow out from his body. The fierce yang poison of the Phoenix True Fire was being slowly expelled. This match seemed easy, at least compared to the previous two, but in reality it was anything but easy. The key to victory lay in his instantaneous burst of the purple demon eyes, using the purple extreme divine light to forcibly break through Ji Guanlin's mental defenses and severely injure her sea of consciousness. Tang San's greatest strength right now wasn't any of his first-tier bloodlines but his spiritual power. His spiritual power had reached the peak of the Ninth Order for years now. After reaching this peak, his excess spiritual power had been compressed, purified, and transformed bit by bit into divine consciousness. The process was incredibly slow, but it was nonetheless gradually restoring his divine consciousness. As his divine consciousness was strengthened, his control over his spiritual power naturally became stronger, which allowed him to compress it more and therefore fit more of it in his sea of consciousness. Therefore, although his spiritual power had not transformed into divine consciousness, something that could only happen with the divine tribulation, he far surpassed other peak Ninth Order powerhouses in terms of total spiritual power. In the previous matches, he hadn't deliberately used his spiritual power in combat. So for Ji Guanlin, the strike of the purple extreme divine light was utterly unexpected. Moreover, at that moment, Tang San had also integrated his newly revived god-killing domain into the attack. The purple demon eyes combined with the god-killing domain instantly broke through her mental defenses, completely suppressing her on the spiritual level and giving him a chance to exploit. His yin-yang energy was still not particularly powerful, so if Ji Guanlin had been in peak condition, she could have kept it under control. However, her sea of consciousness was too chaotic, due to being exposed to Tang San's unadulterated killing intent. Coupled with Tang San's sharp spiritual power attacking from all directions, this killing intent paved the ground perfectly for the invasion of the yin-yang energy, making Ji Guanlin unable to resist and nearly causing her own nirvana flames to burn her to death. The undying demon emperor sensed the dire situation and had to intervene. As the leader of the immortal Flame Phoenix clan and a demon emperor, his word was law. But even so, it was quite embarrassing to be forced to intervene and save his daughter, who had long been expelled from the clan. Luckily, the same pride that caused him to feel embarrassed prevented him from simply smacking Tang San into the ground in front of everyone. And most importantly, when he took a moment to observe his daughter's condition, he actually became somewhat interested in Tang San. Following Big Cat, Tang San also successfully entered the quarterfinals, but he also exposed his powerful spiritual power. Of course, to Tang San it was worth it. Without this sudden full-force strike, he would have had to pay a huge price to defeat Ji Guanlin once she completed a Nirvana rebirth. He might not have succeeded even with the help of spatial abilities. What puzzled him was that Ji Guanlin, like Big Cat before, appeared in the battle in practically a beggar's outfit, without any powerful weapons. The immortal Flame Phoenix clan was definitely not poor. How could their direct descendant, who made it to the top 16 to boot, have no items to use? Of course, he didn't know that Ji Guanlin was in this sorry state because she had been expelled from the clan and all her treasures had been taken back, allowing him to gain this advantage. In any case, what mattered was that Tang San had defeated his opponent and successfully advanced to the quarterfinals. As he stepped down from the competition stage, he let out a long breath. Entering the quarterfinals, it'd only take one more win and he could join Big Cat in the semifinals. Moreover, this match appeared relatively easy compared to his previous three. Especially with Ji Guanlin displaying such a grand aura. No one expected him to win so quickly, and it looked all the more effortless in comparison. This would undoubtedly put great pressure on his next opponent. Tang San had another, more important reason to unleash his full power this time and no longer hide his spiritual power, to minimize his energy consumption in the match. He and Mei Gongzi had a doubles match tomorrow. If he got injured and couldn't recover by tomorrow, how would he face the inevitably powerful opponents in the doubles match? Compared to the singles match, he valued the doubles match more. It was the match he and Mei Gongzi were competing in together, Returning to the rest area, he found Big Cat still meditating in the lotus position but looking much better. All his wounds had stopped bleeding, and a faint golden light surrounded him, clearly a result of the pill the Golden Lion King had given him. His aura was stable. One more day of rest and he would be like new. Mei Gongzi came up to him, smiling. "You were amazing, big brother." Tang San smiled wryly. "Let me tell you, this really was pure luck. She didn't know I was able to use spiritual attacks, so I took the initiative. All right, stop humble bragging and let's watch the next match. The winner will be your next opponent, after all. I remember from the draw earlier that the top favorite in this competition is fighting next. He'll probably win and you'll have to fight him after that, so we must watch this one." "Oh, the top favorite." Tang San was taken aback. He hadn't really taken the time to learn about his opponents. He only found out who they were at the start of each match and then began to strategize against them. In a way, this was a show of confidence. After reaching the 9th order, could there be any opponent of the same cultivation that he could not contend with? This was the confidence of a former god king. But seeing Mei Gongzi's serious expression, it was clear that the next opponent had to be extraordinarily powerful. In this Ancestral Court Elite Tournament, he had already encountered many strong opponents, especially those with first-tier bloodlines and Demon Emperor legacies. Each of them was tough to deal with and brought him considerable trouble. He had to use various combat methods to face them and ultimately emerge victorious. Among so many powerful beings, what kind of strength would the one called the top favorite possess? Would it be significantly stronger than all his previous opponents? Even at the peak of the 9th order, strength clearly varied. Ji Guanlin, who had just given him a lot of pressure, was a truly fine example. The purity of her Phoenix True Fire was incredibly terrifying. Even now, he was still expelling the fire poison from his body. In this forest of strong contenders at the Ancestral Court Elite Tournament, to be recognized as the tallest tree, one's strength had to be universally acknowledged. What kind of being would have that level of strength? At this moment, on the competition stage, the 4th match was about to begin. Since Tang San and Ji Guanlin's battle took place in the air, it didn't cause much damage to the arena, so there wasn't a need for extensive repairs. Both combatants had already stepped onto the stage. The first thing Tang San saw was an extremely burly figure, a familiar sight to him. It was from a race he had faced before. He would have been virtually indistinguishable from a human male if he wasn't 2.5 meters tall and a rather odd color. His bulging, steel-like muscles betrayed his extreme strength, and his hands were simply massive. The air around him was slightly distorted, a result of the immense power of his muscles. This showed just how terrifying his physical strength was. Although he was humanoid, Tang San immediately recognized him as a powerful member of the Behemoth clan, undoubtedly the heir of the sky-splitting Demon Emperor. Tang San had personally faced the might of a behemoth before. In terms of sheer physical strength, even the dragon and phoenix races did not compare. The name sky-splitting was well-deserved. "Is it him?" Tang San asked Mei Gongzi. Mei Gongzi shook her head. "Huh? Not him? Then, this behemoth contestant was obviously stronger than the one Tang San had faced before. If it wasn't him, then his opponent had to be truly terrifying, and that opponent." Tang San squinted his eyes, looking toward the other end of the competition stage, several hundred meters away. Another contestant emerged there, looking even more human compared to the behemoth contestant. Standing about 1.8 meters tall, he had a slender and upright build. His fair complexion, handsome features, and black hair neatly tied in a ponytail made him appear like a handsome human youth. His bright black eyes were extraordinarily striking. He exuded no aura whatsoever, appearing just like an ordinary human who did not cultivate. Tang San was stunned for a moment. At first glance, he couldn't identify the opponent's race. One reason was the distance and the fact that he couldn't use his spiritual power to observe from afar. Another reason was that the opponent had no discernible racial traits. Even to a human, he looked perfectly human. "What race is he? Is he from a clan we've dealt with before?" Tang San asked in a low voice. Mei Gongzi shook her head and said, "We haven't faced anyone like him before. He's from the Tenebrous Dragon clan, and he is hailed as an unparalleled genius. The Tenebrous Demon Emperor once said that he is able to bring forth the night even at midday and reign over it as the Eternal Night Sovereign." This young man was the heir of the 6th-ranked Eternal Night Sovereign, the Tenebrous Demon Emperor. The Tenebrous Demon Emperor often said that at the same age, he was not as good as his grandson. Yes, this is his actual grandson. His name is Meng Didi, and he has climbed to the tops of 12 Emperor Sacred Mountains and obtained tokens from all of them. He currently holds the most tokens among the younger generation. Once we reach the 10th order, we are no longer eligible to climb the mountains, so he is also regarded as the number 1 among the younger generation on the Demon Continent. Right now, there are 15 Sacred Mountains, and the 3 he hasn't climbed are the Crystal, Celestial Fox, and Sunborn Sacred Mountains. He couldn't climb the Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain because he lacks fate-related abilities. He attempted the Crystal Sacred Mountain but couldn't ascend the final step. As for the Sunborn Sacred Mountain, he hasn't even tried because his grandfather has a feud with the Sunborn Nymph Emperor and forbade him from going, fearing treachery. Otherwise, he'd be the one most likely in history to climb all the Sacred Mountains. He gained recognition from 12 emperors, and he was only 1 step away from conquering the Crystal Sacred Mountain. That was indeed interesting. Tang San had the recognition of 3 Sacred Mountains, 2 of which Meng Didi had not obtained. However, he knew that the criteria for each Sacred Mountain varied. To meet the requirements of multiple Sacred Mountains and gain recognition from multiple emperors, one had to possess extremely strong abilities in every respect. Of course, in the end, true strength was only proven on the battlefield, but even so, he was truly interested in this Meng Didi. Next, Meng Didi would face a behemoth even stronger than the one Tang San had faced. This battle would reveal some clues, so it was worth his full attention. As Mei Gongzi explained Meng Didi's background to Tang San, the 4th match of the top 16 had already begun. The behemoth let out an angry roar toward the sky but did not reveal his true form, instead charging toward his opponent in his humanoid shape. Terrifying power erupted with his first step, causing the ground of the competition stage to collapse and creating a 10-meter wide pit. He shot toward Meng Didi like a cannonball, arms outstretched, sharp claws extending and gleaming with a dark golden sheen. The overwhelming pressure was palpable even to the spectators. His physique carried a sense of boundless, unstoppable force. Meng Didi appeared very calm. As the distance closed to 200 meters, his clothes began to move as if stirred by a non-existent wind. At that moment, his eyes turned completely black. There was no white, only deep darkness. He made a circular motion with both hands, pressing forward, and instantly, a black hole with dark purple ribbons of light appeared out of thin air in front of him. It generated a powerful suction force, meeting the behemoth's charge. Having made it to the top 16, the latter was undoubtedly one of the best among the younger generation. Facing the black hole, his charge did not slow even for an instant. His arms came together over his head and he slashed down fiercely, sending dozens of meters-long blade rays plummeting from the sky towards the black hole. The collision happened in an instant. Faced with the invincible behemoth claws, the black hole was torn apart. Strangely, the shattered black hole transformed into purple-black bands of light, spiraling up to entangle the behemoth youth. At the same time, Meng Didi lightly tapped the ground with his foot, leaping into the air. A pair of black dragon wings unfurled behind him, the scales standing up as he burst forward. Instantly, the purple-black bands of light doubled in size, enveloping his opponent like an inescapable net. But the behemoth was not easily dealt with. He snorted coldly, his body spinning as he struck out with one claw after another. Razor-sharp blades erupted, tearing the purple-black bands of light to shreds, with many more claw rays shooting toward Meng Didi. Meng Didi did not dodge. Instead, more purple-black bands of light danced out to meet the blade rays. Although the rays could slice through the bands, they weakened during the process, and by the time they reached Meng Didi, they had dissipated into a gentle breeze. "What strong corrosive power," Tang San remarked in surprise. Indeed, the behemoth's blade rays were incredibly sharp and powerful, but they were corroded by the power imbued in the purple-black bands, dissolving during the attack. This ability indicated that Meng Didi had reached the level of merging with darkness. To control the darkness element to this degree, even during a daytime battle, meant he was truly a master of darkness. Moreover, it wasn't just simple elemental control. When Meng Didi flapped his wings, he clearly released domain abilities. The Dark Domain's effect was straightforward. It enhanced the darkness element. However, with Tang San's experience as a god king, he knew that the simpler the domain, the deeper the understanding of the elements it required, something even gods couldn't always achieve. Such a domain might not seem strong initially, but it would evolve with the user's cultivation, which was truly terrifying. Meng Didi's ability to master such a domain at his age showcased his extraordinary talent. No wonder the tenebrous demon emperor praised him so highly. At this moment on the battlefield, the The behemoth attacked like a frenzied meat grinder, but Meng Didi was like a vast swamp. No matter how the behemoth charged, he couldn't break free from Meng Didi's control. His dragon wings flapped, not to engage in aerial combat, but to generate endless streams of dark bands, covering his opponent incessantly.
Pure darkness, pure corrosion.
That darkness was like a vast net, slowly enveloping the opponent. This was a confrontation between brute force and control. Meng Didi appeared perfectly calm, as if everything was under his control. He was not even showing signs of making an actual effort, yet despite the behemoth's powerful attacks, it could not break free from the encircling dark tentacles. On Meng Didi's forehead, a faint dark purple halo surged, and waves of spiritual power expanded outward, guiding the darkness elemental energy. Even the ground of the competition stage turned purple-black under the invasion of darkness, becoming like a swamp and making it difficult for the behemoth to move. Undoubtedly, the arena would need significant repairs after this match before it could be used again. The behemoth clearly sensed the danger. If this continued, his bloodline power would eventually be exhausted. Meanwhile, his opponent was continuously drawing in darkness toward the stage and was in fact consuming far less energy. The battle-hardened beast of the land understood that he could wait no longer. The dark golden color in his eyes suddenly deepened, and his body emitted a burst of golden light. Almost instantly, his humanoid form swelled, and countless sharp dark golden blades erupted from his body. This was the signature ability of the Behemoth clan, the Claw Blade Storm. Tang San had faced this terrifying attack before, and the Claw Blade Storm unleashed by this Behemoth contestant was undoubtedly even fiercer. The raging energy blades tore through the very fabric of space, shredding the countless dark bands into pieces, which were then devoured by the spatial rifts. The frenzied energy blades swept toward Meng Didi. In the face of this intense attack, Meng Didi still did not reveal his true form. He simply looked at his opponent with icy eyes, then raised his right hand and coldly uttered one word. In an instant, all the purple-black bands of light turned bright purple, appearing to be dissolving. They then quickly turned from bright purple into pitch black, plunging the entire area covered by the dark domain into a colorless abyss. Whether it was the sharp energy blades or the spatial rifts they had created, they all seemed to collapse and dissolve in that instant, withering and falling. Within a diameter of about 200 meters, the surface of the competition stage actually sank by a whole 2 meters. The dark golden color of the behemoth suddenly darkened further, and even its fur began to lose its luster, becoming curly and lackluster due to the withering effect. Meng Didi let out a dragon's roar toward the sky. The withering darkness turned bright again, back to brilliant purple. In that purple world, he stood in the air like a heavenly demon, looking down at his opponent below. The massive behemoth was sinking into the ground bit by bit, as the overwhelming purple rushed toward him madly. Having used the Claw Blade Storm, he was now in a weakened state. How could he possibly break free from this dark assault again? Tang San couldn't help but gasp when he saw this development. Second domain. Yes, the transformation between purple and black was clearly no longer the simple dark domain, but another domain, Wither. The most terrifying thing was that Meng Didi's two domains complemented each other. Everything within the range of the dark domain withered even faster, and conversely, all that withered eventually turned into darkness, further reinforcing the domain. Now Tang San understood why the Eternal Night Sovereign, the Tenebrous Demon Emperor, would say that Meng Didi could display the power of an Eternal Night Sovereign even at midday. Indeed, with his level of mastery over his own abilities and two such powerful domains, not even the average 10th Order demon or nymph could be his match. If he reached godhood in the future, he would undoubtedly be an extraordinary existence. Most importantly, Tang San's next opponent would be this young Eternal Night Sovereign, Meng Didi. The behemoth contestant on the stage finally conceded. If he didn't, his opponent might just strike the killing blow. The invincible beast of the land had lost the match without even making contact with his opponent. What a tragedy! But in the face of absolute strength and a remarkably talented opponent, words were meaningless. The Tenebrous Demon Emperor was only ranked 6th among the Demon Emperors. If the Nymph Emperors were included, he might not even make the top 10. His grandson, on the other hand, was a whole different story. If Meng Didi managed to become a Demon Emperor in the future, the status of the Tenebrous Dragon line would be greatly elevated, far beyond its current 6th place. Moreover, no other emperors could hope to draw them to their side, since he was already the direct heir of a Demon Emperor. On the stage, Meng Didi, having defeated the behemoth, showed no trace of pride. His expression remained unchanged, as if this was something only natural. In the next moment, he slowly turned around, looking in a certain direction. Many spectators followed his gaze and saw, in an inconspicuous area, a masked person. It was none other than the previous match's victor, the one who defeated the immortal Flame Phoenix, Azura. Meng Didi's gaze was quite peculiar. Even from a distance, Tang San could see the look in his eyes. It was an expression of curiosity. No hostility, just pure, intense curiosity. In the next match, Tang San would face the top favorite of the individual competition. And given the strength Meng Didi had just displayed, Tang San knew trouble was coming. Meng Didi's dark domain combined with the withering domain had been too much for the behemoth to break through. Could Tang San fare any better? Without a doubt, this was the strongest opponent Tang San had encountered in the competition, bar none. In terms of element control, he surpassed even Mei Gongzi. The darkness element seemed to have become part of him, or rather, he had become part of the darkness. He was a true child of darkness. Defeating this guy with his current mixed abilities seemed almost impossible. In today's match, the behemoth contestant had lost without even forcing Meng Didi to reveal his trump cards. If Tang San fought like he had until now, Meng Didi would likely defeat him next, then Big Cat and finally Mei Gongzi to win the individual competition. For the first time since participating in this competition, Tang San felt a strong surge of fighting spirit and anticipation for a match. Mei Gongzi, who was right beside him, clearly sensed his change in emotions. Instead of being discouraged by his opponent's strength, it seemed as though his fighting spirit was soaring. At this moment, Tang San seemed like a different person. Those around him could feel a sense of grandeur and strength emanating from him. Both sides stepped down from the competition stage, and the repairing works began. Naturally, it wasn't feasible to have ordinary workers do it, as that would take days. Several demon and nymph kings with earth elemental abilities stepped onto the stage to quickly restore it. Although it wouldn't look as good as before, it would be good enough for competition. Perhaps influenced by the change in Tang San's aura, Mei Gongzi was also filled with fighting spirit, as it would soon be her turn to compete. Tang San and Big Cat had both defeated their opponents and advanced to the quarterfinals. How could she let them steal all the glory? Big brother, I'm heading to my match. Tang San brought his emotions under control and turned to Mei Gongzi with a smile. All right, good luck. You guys are so strong, but I will definitely make it to the quarterfinals too. Let's meet in the finals. After saying this, Mei Gongzi turned and walked away. Watching her graceful figure disappear from sight, Tang San's heart became unusually calm. Today's victory, or rather his progress in the Ancestral Court Elite Tournament, had gradually brought him onto the grand stage of this plane. Undoubtedly, there were many things about him that interested the various demon and nymph races. In the future, he would have to face many challenges alongside Mei Gongzi. He could no longer retreat, and he could no longer hide. He could only become stronger as quickly as he could if he wanted to be able to face all the changes and crises. In this world, strength was ultimately king. At that moment, sensing a change in the aura behind him, Tang San turned to see Big Cat had finished meditating and opened his eyes. He still looked a bit weak, but that would soon pass. Yet there also seemed to be something different about him. He had a complex expression on his face. Big Cat replied wryly, "Pretty good. My injuries have mostly healed. With a bit more rest, it shouldn't be a big problem. You seem troubled. Are you still holding a grudge against the Golden Lion clan? It'd be impossible not to. After all, they and the other lion and tiger clans treated us in such a way that our clan faced the danger of extinction. Since childhood, I have never considered myself related to the lion or tiger races, nor did I think I would gain their recognition. I only feel resentment toward them, and when I wanted to become strong, it was just to show them whether our lion-tiger clan is truly a cursed clan or it is they who are blind to the actual truth." Tang San nodded and said, "If you don't want to cooperate with them, then you don't have to. Given your current position in the Ancestral Court Elite competition, they can't do anything to you. Finding support from other emperors is also an option." Big Cat gave another wry smile, shaking his head. "It's too late. I've accepted their favor, and it's too late to regret it now. I didn't expect that pill to be so precious." Tang San was taken aback. He immediately caught the meaning behind Big Cat's words. "It has other effects besides healing, doesn't it?" Big Cat nodded silently and said, "It purifies the bloodline and turns it into a golden bloodline. I don't know the exact value of this pill, but just imagine that it can evolve a normal lion or tiger demon's bloodline. If the bloodline is not golden to begin with, the pill can make it golden, and if it is golden, it will become far more pure and powerful. In my case, the golden bloodline comes from a mutation, and not because my parents had one. That is the case for the entire Lion-Tiger clan. After all, the golden clans value their bloodline greatly and only marry within the clan. You wouldn't see a golden lion and a golden tiger together, man. What this pill did for me was not just increase the power of my bloodline. I can feel that the bloodline itself is much purer now. I thought it hit the absolute limit after you helped me fuse my dual bloodlines, but now, I am sure it can evolve even more. This gift is too significant, so much that I can't back out now. Tang San's eyes showed a hint of realization. The Golden Lion King truly knows when to act decisively. To offer such a precious pill as a gesture of goodwill shows how much they value your abilities. Big Cat propped himself against the wall and stood up, letting out a long breath. At this point, I have no other choice, so be it. This is also a faster path to improvement for me. After the competition ends, I'll go back and talk to them. I will do what I have to do for our Lion-Tiger clan. Tang San nodded. Whatever plans you have, wait until you become the Lion-Tiger Demon Emperor. By then, the Lion-Tiger clan will truly be the ruling clan of both lion and tiger demons. After all, you have a complete inheritance. All of this is because of you. There's nothing more to say. You are forever the benefactor of our Lion-Tiger clan. Whatever you need, just say the word. Don't hesitate. I'd go through fire and water for you. Tang San patted his strong shoulder. Cut it with that benefactor talk. We are brothers. Yes, we're brothers. Big Cat finally showed a smile. It was clear that he felt better now. At this moment, Mei Gongzi stepped onto the competition stage. As her stunning appearance graced the stage, the audience fell silent. The fourth match had been the quickest and easiest among the first 3 matches today. Meng Didi's formidable strength left a profound impression on the audience. Even the land's mightiest beast, the behemoth, couldn't touch the hem of his clothes, being defeated almost effortlessly by this mysterious tenebrous dragon's dual domains. When Meng Didi's match ended, there were already cheers for the champion. The top favorite certainly lived up to the expectations. With that, the first bracket was concluded. Now, Mei Gongzi's appearance signaled the start of the second bracket matches. Mei Gongzi also left a strong impression on the audience. This princess of the Peacock Demon Clan, capable of controlling space, possessed extraordinary strength. She had reached the finals not only in the individual competition but also in the doubles competition, so how could she not be? She also wielded the Peacock Demon Clan's heritage divine weapon, the Celestial Plume. So far, only 2 pairs of contestants had entered both the individual and doubles competitions and reached the final stages. Tang San and Mei Gongzi were one pair, and the other pair included Meng Didi, who had just finished his match. It was clear that this tenebrous dragon intended to reach the finals and win both competitions. The draw for the doubles final stage had not yet been held, so nobody knew who would face Meng Didi's pair. However, in the next round of the individual competition, Tang San was sure to face this top favorite. Mei Gongzi stood calmly on the competition stage, but behind that calm gaze was intense confidence. Big Cat and Tang San had both won their matches and advanced to the quarterfinals, which greatly motivated her. She firmly believed she could defeat her formidable opponent and advance to the next round. At this moment, her opponent had also arrived on the stage. This contestant was from the Solstice Empire, a nymph. The competition results showed that the nymph races were indeed lagging behind the demon races in terms of individual strength. Most of the top 16 contestants were demons. This one, however, was an exception. Standing opposite Mei Gongzi was another woman, shrouded in shadows and wearing a black cloak, giving off a mysterious aura. Mei Gongzi had naturally obtained information about the top 16 contestants from her father, so she knew exactly who her opponent was once the draw was complete. This contestant was a descendant of the Earthshade Nymph Emperor's original clan, the Netherman Flower Clan. The Netherman Flower Clan and the Scorching Sunflower Clan were known as the 2 ruling clans of the Solstice Empire. However, their abilities could not be more different. The Scorching Sunflower Clan fought with the ferocious and yang-dominant Solar True Fire, while the Netherman Flower Nymph Clan's combat style was more sinister and cold, excelling in close combat rather than the long-range attacks of the Scorching Sunflower Clan. The Netherman Flower Nymph's Netherman Sting was known as their most dangerous attack method. For Mei Gongzi's opponent to reach the finals, her most dangerous attack method had to be truly dangerous. The Great Demon King referee announced the start of the 5th match. No sooner had he finished saying that than the Netherman Flower took a step forward. Her silhouette faded in a strange way, as if she was merging into the shadows, and immediately disappeared. Where she vanished, shadows suddenly thickened and spread out, causing the entire competition stage to darken as if all light were being swallowed. Mei Gongzi reached out with her right hand, and the celestial plume fell into her palm. She wasn't worried about her opponent's invisibility. She controlled space, and as her understanding of spatial power deepened, any spatial fluctuation was within her grasp. No matter how well her opponent hid, as long as there was a spatial disturbance, she could find her immediately. The cold shadows layered upon each other, duplicating endlessly. The chilly aura flowed and swirled in the air. The overlapping shadows resembled thick fog, constantly layering upon each other and advancing. The atmosphere turned eerie, and the temperature on the entire competition stage rapidly dropped. Tang San watched intently. This was the first time he had seen a Netherman flower in action, but he had often gone to the Earthshade's sacred mountain to absorb Yin energy and was very interested in the Netherman flower clan. If he wanted to complete his plan for a transcendent bloodline in the future, the Scorching Sunflower clan and the Netherman flower clan were the primary targets. The mysterious aura of the Netherman flower clan was cold and sinister, and at the same time seemed to hide terrifying power. But Mei Gongzi remained motionless, standing still as the overwhelming shadowy aura enveloped the entire arena and advanced towards her. She stood there like a statue, completely unmoved. The shadow pressure drew closer and closer. 200 meters, 150 meters, 100 meters. At that moment, a ghostly blue spike silently appeared behind Mei Gongzi. Almost instantly, it sped forward like a flash of light, stabbing toward her waist. This ghostly light appeared very abruptly, attacking even before the shadows from the other side had reached full expansion. This caused the audience's hearts to jolt, but in the next moment, they saw Mei Gongzi's figure silently disappear under the attack of the Netherman's sting. Yes, Mei Gongzi also vanished. The ghostly blue spike flashed and disappeared. The Netherman flower did not reveal herself on the stage after the failed attack. Instead, countless ghostly blue lights began to appear among the dense shadows, as if they were the eyes of countless terrifying entities lurking within the shadows, ready to devour anyone. The shadows spread rapidly, seemingly about to cover the entire stage. At this moment, the sky suddenly brightened. Brilliant silver light illuminated the stage below, making the dense shadows look a bit brighter and more transparent. There were silver gates of light in the sky, neatly arranged side by side. Within each gate, mysterious silver halos swirled like vortexes. And atop these gates, Mei Gongzi's figure reappeared. In an instant, as if pulled in by the spatial gates in the air, the shadows below surged upward, carrying countless ghostly blue spikes, sweeping upwards to cover everything. The silver gates of light swayed and twisted slightly. When the shadows rushed toward the gates with their chilling aura, they were silently vanquished. No matter how many shadows and ghostly blue lights attacked, they seemed to be swept into another world, disappearing without a trace, unable to leak out even a bit. But at that moment, a ghostly blue shadow suddenly appeared behind Mei Gongzi once more. Vine-like branches spread out and countless blue flowers bloomed. Spikes shot out from their stamens, blanketing the sky behind her. Mei Gongzi's delicate figure vanished into the air like a popped soap bubble, causing the attack to miss. Meanwhile, the Netherman stings that had pierced the spatial gates exploded, transforming into extreme Yin energy that surged through the gates, causing them to disintegrate. It was an extremely high-level clash. Both competitors were using their bloodline powers to the fullest to pressure the opponent and maximize their own advantages. One advantage that Mei Gongzi had was that her energy consumption was considerably lower than the Netherman flowers. At the same time, however, the latter's extreme cold Yin aura enveloped the entire arena. The Yin energy was everywhere, and no matter where Mei Gongzi teleported within the field, she would be tainted by the extreme Yin energy. For a while, Mei Gongzi's figure kept flickering in the air, opening spatial gates to swallow the Yin energy and Netherman stings released by the Netherman flower. On the other side, the ghostly blue shadows kept sweeping through, destroying the spatial gates, and the Yin energy over the arena only grew colder and stronger. They seemed to be in a stalemate. Big Cat stood next to Tang San watching the match. "I can't tell who's got the advantage right now. What do you say?" Tang San shook his head. "It's hard to say, honestly. The Netherman flower is very powerful. Although she doesn't have the fierce attack methods of the scorching sunflowers, her Yin energy will invade you invisibly. If it's not handled properly, being tainted by this Yin energy will be a massive problem. It's the kind of insidious poison that accumulates and gradually weakens the opponent. And since she's daring enough to use such a large-scale technique, she must have some kind of divine item that powers her. Otherwise, the consumption of this extreme Yin energy would be enormous. Little Mei is using the teleportation ability of the spatial gates to transfer this Yin energy out, continuously consuming her opponent's bloodline power. Even with a divine artifact enhancing it, bloodline power has its limits. Every bit of Yin energy consumed is one less bit she has. Both are looking for opportunities in the stalemate to deliver a fatal blow. Little Mei's spatial attribute, in a sense, prevails over these extreme attributes. No matter what kind of attribute it is, the result is the same when faced with spatial changes. In other words, from the looks of it, Little Mei still holds the upper hand. She also has a divine artifact, and her celestial plume has never fully unleashed its true power. I don't believe it's just about enhancing spatial control. After all, this is the heirloom treasure of the Peacock Demon Clan, which once produced a demon emperor. Big Cat laughed. Your relationship sure is progressing. You weren't calling her Little Mei last time. They say love makes you lose clarity, but you're seeing things clearly. Tang San smiled slightly in response. It's precisely because I care that I must see things clearly. As they spoke, the battle in the arena became more intense. The dense shadows had gradually turned light blue, with countless ghostly lights surging upward. The Netherman flower's true form did not reappear, while the gates of light in the air began to change. More spatial rifts appeared, and the overlapping spatial rifts collided fiercely with the dense shadows. The spatial gates swallowed the shadows and teleported them who knew where, while the shadows erupted to obliterate the spatial rifts. It seemed that both sides had entered a contest of bloodline energy. Mei Gongzi continued to hover in the air above the center of the stage, with the celestial plume in her hand constantly emitting silvery glimmers, causing spatial rifts to bloom in the air. It was as if she had created a forbidden zone in the sky, impervious to the surging cold aura. Through this method, she minimized the influence of the extreme Yin energy. However, she did not press downward. The spatial rifts would dissipate after reaching a certain height due to the continuous impact. The stalemate persisted. Mei Gongzi remained calm and composed, her long dress fluttering. She looked like a fairy amidst the silver light. The Yin energy below continuously consumed but quickly gathered again, seemingly endless. Surrounded by silver light, Mei Gongzi seemed to have entered a special state. Spatial energy gathered from all directions and flowed according to her will, manifesting as spatial gates or rifts, blocking the surging Yin energy. She seemed determined to exhaust her opponent, banking on the fact that the latter's bloodline energy would be consumed first. As Tang San had predicted, Mei Gongzi had the upper hand in terms of consumption. Her spatial attribute used teleportation rather than absorption, so she didn't need to counteract or process the Yin energy within her own body. On the other hand, her opponent, the Netherman flower, had to use extreme Yin energy to break the spatial gates. This was an explosive method that required plenty of energy under any circumstances, and even more so considering that a large part of the Yin energy was teleported away and only the leftovers clashed with the gates and rifts. In this war of attrition, the Netherman flower nymph was at a disadvantage. Furthermore, the spatial rifts prevented the Yin energy from reaching Mei Gongzi. Continuing in this manner, Mei Gongzi had a high chance of winning. With both sides supported by divine artifacts, the attribute suppression gave her the upper hand. Thus, she was in no hurry and had no issue continuing this way. At that moment, the mass of Yin energy below suddenly collapsed inward. The next instant, a massive Yin energy tornado shot up into the sky, shattering the spatial rifts and shaking space itself as it swept toward Mei Gongzi. The Netherman flower could no longer hold back. Facing the massive Yin energy tornado, Mei Gongzi had no intention of confronting it head-on. With a wave of the celestial plume and a flash of silver light, she vanished again, unaffected by the space disruption caused by the tornado. Recently, with her deepening understanding of the space element, her control of space had evolved from tearing space to creating space. This evolution was crucial. So, when her opponent disrupted space to prevent her from teleporting, she used the celestial plume and her insights to create a spatial gate amidst the chaos, ensuring a stable teleportation. She had been researching how to calm down chaotic space and make it usable, and it seemed that she had made significant progress. The Yin energy tornado missed, and the pervasive Yin energy didn't disperse again but rapidly converged and collapsed inward once more. The extreme Yin energy gathered in one spot, and soon, the chilling aura that had filled the arena condensed, reforming into a human shape. the true form of the Netherman flower. The reason she no longer continued to use her wide area ability was that she realized Mei Gongzi would keep teleporting and eventually outlast her. A war of attrition would ultimately be to her disadvantage, as her consumption was clearly greater than Mei Gongzi's and would eventually lead to a loss. After weighing the situation, she immediately changed tactics, retracting all the extreme energy back to herself and reappearing in her true form. Both parties faced each other in the sky. The Netherman flower raised her hands to her sides, each holding a ghostly blue spike. In front of her forehead floated a ghostly blue bead, like a third eye, emitting a chilling light. The Netherman eye, a divine artifact of the Netherman flower clan, could condense and purify energy. It was a powerful auxiliary item. This explained why she had dared to generate energy so recklessly and also reclaim it quickly without wasting her bloodline power. Reaching the final stage meant receiving significant attention and support from her clan. Unlike the expelled member of the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan, this contestant was no exception. The ghostly blue light of the Netherman eye gathered, and in the next moment, it moved. Blue light burst from her back, propelling her like lightning toward Mei Gongzi. She reasoned clearly that if she did not use wide-area abilities with high energy consumption, she could rely on the Netherman eye to continuously restore her bloodline power. Even if the opponent kept teleporting to evade her attacks, at worst, the war of attrition would end in a draw. For the Peacock Princess to win, she had to engage in close combat. But the Netherman flower innately excelled at close combat, and given the opportunity, she could slowly poison the opponent with energy. She firmly believed that although the Peacock Princess seemed to handle the situation well due to her spatial abilities, she couldn't have possibly avoided all the energy. In her view, Mei Gongzi couldn't keep evading forever. While spatial abilities restrained her to some extent, her extreme energy continuously affected Mei Gongzi as well. Seeing her opponent's choice, Mei Gongzi seemed to understand the situation. She didn't teleport away. Instead, the celestial plume in her hand flickered, transforming into a silver light that pointed at the opponent. The battle of bloodline power turned into close combat. Both moved at incredible speed. Seeing Mei Gongzi choosing close combat, the Netherman flower was delighted. As it thrust her spikes forward, 9 spikes instantly materialized, attacking from different directions like a demonic spear formation. Mei Gongzi remained composed. She drew a circle with the celestial plume in her hand, and the mysterious circles of heaven caused the spike's trajectory to go completely off. You think you're the only one good at close combat? The Netherman flower charged forth and countless spikes emerged from all over her body. She was clearly intending on using her body to directly ram Mei Gongzi, and it was also clear that being hit by any one of these spikes could end the match. The Peacock Demon clan was known for their powerful spatial control abilities but relatively weak bodies. This was common knowledge. In the Netherman flower's view, Mei Gongzi had no other option but to teleport. As long as that happened, she had her chance. She had already locked onto Mei Gongzi's aura with the Netherman eye. No matter where she teleported, the Netherman flower's continuous attacks would follow. Although the 500-meter arena was not small, for people at their level, the distance could be crossed in the blink of an eye. In close combat, her energy would continuously sap at Mei Gongzi's strength, ultimately leading to her victory. What happened next shocked everyone. The celestial plume in Mei Gongzi's hand suddenly disappeared, and at the same time, the shimmering silver light vanished. Facing the porcupine-like Netherman flower, Mei Gongzi did not dodge. Instead, she did the unthinkable opposite. She opened her arms wide, as if to embrace her opponent. The silver light surrounding her body was no more. Replacing it was a white-hot, incandescent light. The white light condensed into plate-like shapes all over her body, transforming the delicate fairy into a valiant warrior clad in a full suit of armor. When the Netherman stings struck the white light armor, they might as well have struck a city wall. They were not even able to scratch it, let alone penetrate. The full-force charge, with the Netherman eye locked onto Mei Gongzi's aura, was done with the expectation that she would teleport and would have to be pursued. And as they clashed head-on instead, the Netherman flower was immediately caught in Mei Gongzi's embrace. This unexpected development left her completely bewildered. In the next moment, immense power accompanied by fierce killing intent pressed in, tightly constricting her body. From one of the VIP rooms, an astonished voice emerged. White Tiger Heavenly Armor? The resplendent, exquisite, and yet fiercely murderous white armor was indeed one of the renowned abilities of the sky-piercing White Tiger Demon Emperor, the White Tiger Heavenly Armor. The White Tiger Heavenly Armor might not rival the Golden Mammoth Demon Emperor's hide in terms of sheer defense, but it had both offensive and defensive functions. It came with the ability known as White Tiger's 7 kills. When the overlapping killing intent erupted, it allowed the user to instantly unleash 7 times their pure power, destroying the opponent's body and spirit alike. When the White Tiger Demon Emperor unleashed White Tiger's 7 kills, even the higher-ranked Demon Emperors would avoid direct confrontation. In terms of explosive power, the White Tiger Demon Emperor was unmatched among all emperors. Even the Crystal Demon Emperor, who had literally every ability in existence, had to mimic White Tiger's 7 kills to counter it. Nothing else was effective. Who could have imagined that a princess of the Peacock Demon clan would use the White Tiger Heavenly Armor and White Tiger's 7 kills? This explosion of power was so unexpected that it stunned not only the Netherman Flower but also the observing nobles and emperors. Only Tang San, at this moment, showed endless tenderness in his eyes. Facing the Netherman Flower, Mei Gongzi held the upper hand. Even without using her secondary bloodline, she could have defeated her opponent. Unleashing her secondary bloodline ensured a quicker victory. That much was true. But Tang San understood that she was doing this to share his burden and the pressure of having multiple bloodlines. In previous matches, he had displayed 2 bloodlines, and he was the only one to do so. Apart from him, no other contestant had revealed a second bloodline. Thus, it made him stand out like a sore thumb. Now, Mei Gongzi was displaying the bloodline of the White Tiger Demon Emperor along with that of the Peacock Demon clan. With 2 top-tier bloodlines in one person, all attention naturally focused on her, significantly reducing the pressure on Tang San. The Netherman Flower, trapped due to her own misjudgment, had lost her chance. The terrifying killing intent completely sealed her off. The 7-fold power and incredible killing intent of White Tiger's 7 kills left her no opportunity. Her body collapsed in Mei Gongzi's embrace, and all her spikes shattered. The killing intent blasted her spirit, rendering it powerless, and Mei Gongzi reverted to the peacock transformation to bind her tightly in a separate space. This was quite the merciful course of action. Otherwise, being hit head-on by White Tiger's 7 kills at such close range would have resulted in being torn to pieces. The match ended with Mei Gongzi's victory, and she advanced smoothly to the quarterfinals. The entire audience was in an uproar. White Tiger and Peacock Demon, dual bloodlines. Since when did the White Tiger Demon Emperor and the Peacock Demon clan have such a close relationship? Even the highest-ranking members of the Ancestral Court, the Demon Emperors and Nymph Emperors, couldn't help but turn their attention to the White Tiger Demon Emperor's VIP box. The latter had come to watch today's matches. Possessing 2 top-tier bloodlines and being able to exhibit top-level power with both, Mei Gongzi was now at the very center of the attention. In his own VIP box, the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor sat with a complex expression, killing intent flickering in his eyes. He knew better than anyone where Mei Gongzi had gotten her second bloodline from. While his former lover was a human, she had the White Tiger Demon Emperor's bloodline. This girl is the descendant of the former Peacock Demon Emperor and the White Tiger Demon Emperor, 2 first-tier bloodlines. And since she is able to use the Celestial Plume, she must have gained the Peacock Demon clan's inheritance. With the abilities she demonstrated today, her control over space, and her ability to use the White Tiger Heavenly Armor in White Tiger's 7 kills, her future is limitless. She absolutely has the potential to become a Demon Emperor. No wonder that guy chose her as his successor. In the future, if she truly grows and inherits everything from him, I will no longer have a chance to take Kali City. I can't wait any longer. After the Ancestral Court Elite Tournament, I must make a move on Kali City immediately. As for this girl, she must be crushed in the cradle. She must not be allowed to mature no matter the cost, even if it means offending the White Tiger Demon Emperor. With this match concluded, Tang San, Mei Gongzi, and Big Cat all advanced to the quarterfinals of the Ancestral Court Elite Tournament. They occupied 3 of the 8 spots, and they wouldn't face each other in the next round. This was undoubtedly the best possible outcome. When Mei Gongzi stepped off the stage, Tang San was already waiting for her. Watching her approach, Tang San sighed softly and said, "You didn't need to do that. It will only increase the pressure on you." Mei Gongzi smiled slightly and shook her head. "If I want to go further, I'd have to show it sooner or later. It's fine. This way I could win faster. If I got injured today, what would we do about our doubles match tomorrow? Now I'm worried about you. The day after tomorrow you'll face Meng Didi. Are you confident?" Tang San smiled wryly and said, "I'll do my best. He's not easy to deal with." Meng Didi was indeed difficult to deal with. That child of darkness was truly the strongest opponent he would have in this Ancestral Court Elite tournament. The two returned to the rest area together. Big Cat had left after watching Mei Gongzi's match. He needed to rest and recover from his injuries. Mei Gongzi possessing the White Tiger transformation greatly surprised him. With his evolving golden bloodline, he thought that he might not beat Azura, but he should at least be stronger than Mei Gongzi. Seeing her White Tiger transformation, he fled in embarrassment. The biggest weakness of the Peacock Demon clan was their relatively weak bodies. But with the addition of the all-encompassing, offensive and defensive White Tiger Demon Emperor bloodline, that weakness was no more. How could he have the confidence to fight her? As far as I see, you can't use both at the same time. You have to switch between them, right? Tang-san asked Mei Gongzi. Mei Gongzi nodded slightly. This is also why I'm curious about your abilities. Why can you use several abilities at once without any bloodline conflict? My situation is different from yours. My core power isn't actually any of these bloodline powers. Each bloodline ability for me is just a different manifestation of the same thing.
Mei Gongzi frowned.
Is there any way I can solve this? If I could use both bloodline abilities simultaneously, my strength would greatly increase. Tang-san thought for a moment and said, "Don't rush. You only have 2 bloodlines, so I believe there might be a solution. I'll think of a way, but it will have to be gradual, not something that can be achieved overnight." Tang-san and Mei Gongzi did not linger. They both returned to their residences to rest. Today's battles were clearly different from the previous ones. After entering the final stages, the opponents became much more difficult to deal with, especially with the support of their respective clans. Their equipment was orders of magnitude better. It was easy to imagine that once the quarterfinals started, their opponents would be even more heavily armed. Today, Tang-san had carefully observed his next opponent for the first time. Meng Didi's strength was the first among all the opponents he had encountered in this tournament to make Tang-san feel major trouble incoming. To put it simply, he was someone Tang-san might not be able to defeat without revealing some of his core abilities that had to be kept secret at all costs. Meng Didi was halfway into the god level. To be more accurate, he was deliberately suppressing his cultivation. Otherwise, he would have already broken through. His understanding of his element was the deepest Tang-san had seen among anyone he had met in this world. Mei Gongzi's understanding of space was growing daily, and her progress was undoubtedly fast. But there was still a difference compared to Meng Didi's understanding of the darkness element. Meng Didi was the very embodiment of darkness. He wasn't just manipulating an element. He practically had an elemental physique. Such an opponent was indeed difficult to deal with. Tang-san needed to carefully consider how to confront this formidable opponent in their next match. Their confrontation wasn't limited to the singles tournament. With Meng Didi's presence, his pair was also likely to advance smoothly, and sooner or later, Tang-san and Mei Gongzi would inevitably face them. Tang-san was already satisfied with his achievements in the individual tournament. He had never aimed to win the championship. That would draw too much attention. He didn't want to become the focus of the emperors until his strength was up to par. However, for the doubles tournament, he was determined to win the championship for Mei Gongzi. This was their first collaboration and a revival of the legendary partnership from his past life. He genuinely wanted to win this championship from the bottom of his heart. Therefore, Meng Didi was the opponent he had to defeat, the biggest obstacle for him and Mei Gongzi. He was also an obstacle for Big Cat. If Tang-san lost to Meng Didi in the next individual match, Meng Didi would then face Big Cat, who had a high chance of advancing to the semifinals. Even if Big Cat could obtain the God-slaying sword from the Golden Lion clan, Tang-san still didn't believe Big Cat could defeat Meng Didi. What made Tang-san wary of Meng Didi the most was how effortlessly he had defeated the behemoth. Throughout the match, Meng Didi didn't use any weapons or equipment. As the direct descendant of the Tenebrous Demon Emperor and a once-in-a-century genius of the Tenebrous Dragon clan, could he really lack the support of his clan? The direct heir of a demon emperor without a divine item? That was obviously impossible. The only reason Meng Didi didn't use any such items was that his opponent wasn't strong enough to warrant it. It was that simple. Therefore, for Tang-san to win, he had to factor in Meng Didi's potential use of artifacts or find a unique strategy to defeat him. But that was challenging since Meng Didi excelled at controlling the battlefield with his darkness elemental domain. In his previous life, Tang-san was also a master of control, so he knew how troublesome a control-type fighter could be on the battlefield. Any tactics used against such an opponent would be difficult to execute effectively due to their overarching influence. He really needed to think carefully about which abilities to reveal and what techniques to use to defeat this opponent, and hopefully seriously injure him. Ideally, he could solve the problems of both the singles and doubles matches in one go. Thinking of this, a rare competitive fire ignited in Tang San's eyes. His eyes narrowed slightly, a cold glint flashing in them. Mei Gongzi returned to her residence, and the Peacock Great Demon King had also returned, no longer continuing to watch the matches. Mei Gongzi's opponents in the second bracket of the individual competition were strong, but there was no one remotely on the same level as Meng Didi. She wouldn't meet her strongest opponent until the semifinals, and her next opponent was similar in strength to the one she had just faced. Why did you reveal the White Tiger Demon Emperor's inheritance today? I can sense that the White Tiger Demon Emperor is now paying attention to you, the Peacock Great Demon King asked, frowning slightly. It's nothing. I just thought it would be better to reveal the Celestial Dance later. I'm more confident in the Celestial Dance now. Today's opponent wasn't easy to deal with, and I was worried that a prolonged fight would affect tomorrow's doubles match. The Peacock Great Demon King looked at her deeply. I can guess what you're thinking. It's already done, so let's leave it. But you need to understand why I asked you to use the White Tiger Transformation's bloodline power later. It's because it should be used at a higher level to make the White Tiger Demon Emperor value you more. By placing the Celestial Dance later, aren't you telling all the observing Demon Emperors that in your heart, the White Tiger Transformation is not as important as the Peacock Transformation?
Mei Gongzi responded naturally.
That's the truth. Don't you want me to think that way? The Peacock Great Demon King paused, then said, Of course, I want you to think that way, but it depends on the occasion. For you to secure your position as my successor, and especially as the City Lord, the support of the White Tiger Demon Emperor is crucial. He has significant influence in the ancestral court, and even emperors ranked above him must give him some respect. If he supports you as the Lord of Kali City, your position will be much more stable. Of course, that will still be in the name of the Peacock Demon Clan, as the ancestral court won't allow the White Tiger Demon Emperor to have a second territory. This balance must be carefully managed. Mei Gongzi slowly nodded, then softly said, Father, is your health? She sensed a hint of urgency in the Peacock Great Demon King's words. The Peacock Great Demon King shook his head and said, I'm fine. Don't worry. For the sake of our clan and for you, I won't die easily. I have to finish what needs to be done. Is it really irreversible? A trace of sadness flashed in Mei Gongzi's eyes. The Peacock Great Demon King looked deeply at his daughter, sighed softly, and said, I have never been a good father. I want to hold on, but no matter what, it's impossible. I've burned my golden crown. Unless there is an existence higher than the Demon Emperor to reverse the situation, it's irreversible. But this is part of my plan. Even if I stayed alive, I wouldn't be able to protect Kali City. After all, I can't become a Demon Emperor. But you can. As long as you withstand the initial pressure and become an emperor in the future, our Peacock Demon Clan status will stabilize, and we can firmly hold onto Kali City. This is what I most hope to see. For this, what does death matter? Mei Gongzi could feel the determination in his tone and lowered her head. I will try my best, but if there is any hope, I want you to live. I will shoulder my responsibilities, whether for the Peacock Demon Clan or for humanity. The Peacock Great Demon King nodded in relief and said, It's best that you think this way. By the way, focus on the doubles competition as well. You should spend more time with that Azura. You both have strong abilities, but you need better coordination. The essence of the doubles tournament is mutual cooperation. Although you have had some cooperation before, it is not yet enough. This will limit your performance in the later matches. I have high hopes for this Azura. You should also focus on winning him over. With that blood oath, he will surely become your right-hand man in the future. Mei Gongzi nodded lightly, her mind recalling all the events that had occurred between her and Azura during the competition. Whether it was Azura guiding her cultivation, teaching her the mysterious circles of heaven, or making the blood oath and accompanying her throughout the journey, eventually leading them both to the finals, she had gained more understanding and trust in this Azura. Apart from not yet seeing his true face, everything else was impeccable, and regarding that, Mei Gongzi believed he had his reasons for not revealing it to her just yet. Why is he so good to me? Often, when someone suddenly treats another person exceptionally well, it's hard to adapt. In Mei Gongzi's perception, Azura had been exceptionally kind to her from the first time they met, always protecting her. She even felt that this person would do anything for her. But where did this devotion come from? Why exactly? Was it because of her looks? Through their interactions, She didn't think he was a shallow man who would swear a blood oath just for the sake of a pretty face. There had to be some other reason. However, her only human relative in this world was her mother, who also didn't know where this Azura came from. Her mother had asked Mayor Zhang Haoshuan, but the latter's answer was also ambiguous, only telling them that Azura was trustworthy. That was all. The Peacock Great Demon King went to rest. His health was poor, and he had to spend a lot of time in meditation to keep his life force from depleting too quickly. He also needed substantial quantities of treasure plants to maintain his current state. Only the wealth of Kali City could support this. Mei Gongzi dialed Tang San's communicator. "Big brother, are you available now?" "Yes, I am. What's up?" Obviously, for Mei Gongzi, he was always available. Mei Gongzi said, "My father mentioned that we should work more on our coordination in the doubles matches. I think he's right. If you're willing, can we discuss this? Tomorrow, the finals will start, and our opponents will only get stronger. We need to coordinate better." Tang San actually wanted to tell her that their tacit understanding was natural, at least from his side. He could cooperate with her in any situation, but he obviously had no complaints about spending more time with Mei Gongzi. They arranged to meet in the afternoon at the White Tiger Hotel. Their individual matches had ended before lunchtime. So, after having lunch at their respective residences, Mei Gongzi came to the hotel to find Tang San in the afternoon. Tang San welcomed Mei Gongzi into his room and closed the door. He offered her a seat, poured a glass of water for her, and handed it to her. "How do you plan for us to improve our coordination?" Tang San asked with a smile. Mei Gongzi glanced at him and said, "Shouldn't you be the one to plan that?" Tang San laughed and said, "When did you become lazy?" Mei Gongzi shook her head and said, "It's not about being lazy. It's just that I know I'm not as good as you in this area, so why overthink it? Your abilities are unique, and I don't know how to coordinate with you." Tang San nodded and said, "Actually, you don't need to worry too much about our coordination. In the doubles tournament, if we face strong opponents later, I'll support you. You take the lead and I'll assist. Just like before, I can be your wings, your power source, supporting all your battles. We become one, integrating our abilities to unleash the strongest combat power."
Mei Gongzi blinked.
"Is it that simple?"
Mei Gongzi pouted.
"Then I came here for nothing?" Tang San laughed. "How could it be for nothing? Let's try circulating our energies, and you'll understand what I mean. Follow me to the cultivation room." As he spoke, he stood up and walked toward the cultivation room. Mei Gongzi took a sip of water, put down the glass, and followed him. Tang San sat down at the far end of the cultivation room and pointed to the ground in front of him. Mei Gongzi sat down opposite him. Tang San raised his hands to her seriously and said, "Give me your hands. I'll guide you." "Okay." Mei Gongzi raised her hands as instructed. Their palms pressed together. As he felt the smoothness of her skin, Tang San's gaze became even gentler. Mei Gongzi felt the warmth of his palms. She had no romantic thoughts. She simply found the touch of his hands comforting. Tang San said in a deep voice, "Relax yourself completely. Relax your body, your bloodline power, and your spiritual power. I'll guide the flow. This way, when we coordinate later, we can achieve better results without any energy waste." Mei Gongzi was taken aback and asked, "Is that even possible? Can different bloodlines connect?" Tang San smiled slightly and said, "Others might not be able to, but I can. Trust me." "All right." Mei Gongzi nodded, closed her eyes, and gradually relaxed, letting Tang San's hands draw her palms closer. Watching her closed eyes, her long lashes resting on her eyelids, the peaceful Mei Gongzi looked so enchanting. Tang San's heart softened even more. Perhaps it was a bit early, but as he pondered how to defeat Meng Didi earlier, he had already thought of some possibilities. To firmly stand on the core stage of the demon continent, he would have to show his true skills. "Come, my love. Let me guide you to feel the union that we had in our previous life." As he thought this, Tang San slowly closed his eyes, and the aura around him began to change subtly. His sea of consciousness slowly opened, and the energy of the mysterious heaven technique gently flowed through his palms into Mei Gongzi's body. Mei Gongzi felt the warm energy transmitted from Tang San's palms. This warm energy was very comfortable, but she could clearly feel that it was not bloodline power. Bloodline power would not be so gentle and always carried specific characteristics, whereas the energy Tang San transmitted had no bloodline traits. It was just pure, warm energy that was balanced and harmonious. As this energy circulated within her body, it made her feel exceptionally comfortable. as if she were soaking in a hot spring, and all her fatigue melted away. Even without her control, her bloodline did not reject this energy at all. She could even feel her two different bloodline powers becoming more harmonious under the influence of this warm energy. Although there was no attribute conflict between the Peacock Demon bloodline and the White Tiger one, both were powerful first-tier bloodlines, and thus did not harmonize well with each other. This was why Mei Gongzi could not use both demonic god transformations simultaneously and had to switch between them. But now, under the influence of this warm energy, she felt her two bloodlines beginning to grow closer. In fact, she even had the distinct impression that the two were starting to merge. Is this really possible? Perhaps this energy is the core ability that allows Azura to use multiple bloodline abilities at the same time. Mei Gongzi was smart and quickly understood what was going on. The fact that he could use this energy also explained why he could transmit energy to her and amplify her abilities. Now, under the cleansing of this energy, Mei Gongzi clearly felt her bloodline power growing increasingly close to the energy transmitted by Azura. Along with this came the familiar spatial energy fluctuations from Azura. This spatial energy belonged to the Peacock Demon bloodline imprint. Under the guidance of his internal energy, Tang San's Peacock transformation energy gradually made contact with Mei Gongzi's. They started sensing and recognizing each other. This was what Tang San had just mentioned, allowing their abilities to connect so that later, when he assisted her, he could provide her with better energy support. But this was clearly not Tang San's entire purpose for today. As their Peacock transformation bloodlines intertwined, Mei Gongzi could clearly feel her aura merging with Tang San's. Their connection grew increasingly intimate, almost as if they were becoming one. This was understandable. Tang San's Peacock Demon bloodline power was initially absorbed from her, after all. And with the added connection of his blood oath, their bond deepened further. Their relationship naturally became even closer, linked by the balanced and harmonious energy of the mysterious heaven technique. This was exactly what Tang San hoped to achieve. Gradually, in this state of mutual integration and extreme comfort, Mei Gongzi entered a meditative state where she forgot herself and her surroundings. Tang San also felt his aura merging with Mei Gongzi's, filling his heart with indescribable warmth. He reminisced about the times he and Xiao Wu used to cultivate together similarly, though those times were different from now. Xiao Wu, my love, I can finally be together with you again. Tang San's gaze grew, even gentler, but at this moment, his sea of consciousness fully opened, revealing his divine consciousness within. When he first arrived, his divine consciousness was as small as a grain of rice. Now, it had grown to the size of a pigeon egg. If not for the constant protection of his powerful spiritual power, he would have found it challenging to continue concealing this divine consciousness. It was under the control of his divine consciousness that his spiritual power, despite being so powerful, had not triggered a breakthrough to the 10th tier. It was also what allowed him to use the purple demon eyes at full power in a single instant to dominate the immortal flame phoenix. His divine consciousness was no longer in a weakened state, where using it even slightly would result in lengthy recovery. With Tang San's constant nurturing and multiple fortuitous encounters, his divine consciousness had now initially stabilized, allowing him to use abilities that only divine consciousness could handle. A faint smile appeared on Tang San's face as he quietly guided a trace of his divine consciousness into Mei Gongzi's sea of consciousness, gently stirring it. Instantly, Mei Gongzi's eyebrows furrowed slightly as her sea of consciousness began to ripple under the stirring of the divine consciousness. Tang San's outflow of divine consciousness began to increase. What he needed to do was simple: help Mei Gongzi compress her spiritual power so that her sea of consciousness could hold more. This was in preparation for her future breakthrough to the god level. As a former god king, his understanding of spiritual power could not be any deeper. When breaking through to another level, spiritual power played a decisive role, actually even more important than internal energy or bloodline power in this world. The level of one's spiritual power determined one's potential at the god level and beyond. Taking advantage of this opportunity today, he decided to help Mei Gongzi compress her spiritual power, enhancing her foundation in this area. Mei Gongzi's spiritual power was already very high. After receiving the Peacock Demon clan's inheritance, her spiritual power had reached the peak of the 9th order. Moreover, through his probing, Tang San discovered that there was a faint trace of divine consciousness within Mei Gongzi's spiritual power. However, this was not the same as his divine consciousness carried over from a previous life. Otherwise, Mei Gongzi would have memories of her past life. Instead, it originated from this world. In other words, she had already begun to develop divine consciousness without even reaching the god level. This was a very peculiar phenomenon. Tang San cautiously made slight contact with that trace of divine consciousness and immediately understood its origin. It originated from her divine artifact, the celestial plume, which clearly had its own level of spirituality. This trace of divine consciousness signified celestial plume's recognition of Mei Gongzi. After the artifact accepted a master, it produced this divine consciousness as feedback. It seemed that celestial plume was of an even higher level than Tang San had initially judged. The trace of divine consciousness created by the celestial plume was clearly wary of Tang San's divine consciousness. However, the blood oath Tang San had sworn earlier played a crucial role at this moment. The blood oath he had made for Mei Gongzi was imprinted in Tang San's sea of consciousness, and his divine consciousness naturally carried the aura of the blood oath. Thanks to the aura of the blood oath, not only did Mei Gongzi's sea of consciousness acknowledge his presence, but even the trace of divine consciousness from celestial plume gradually accepted him, ceasing to resist. Tang San briefly sensed the trace of divine consciousness and stabilized it within Mei Gongzi's sea of consciousness. He could help Mei Gongzi sort and compress her spiritual power, but he couldn't interfere with her divine consciousness. Once divine consciousness was born, its future growth was extremely important to the host, and could only be achieved through the host's own cultivation. The most incredible aspect of divine consciousness was its lack of spatial constraints, meaning the size of the sea of consciousness didn't matter. When one reached godhood, their sea of consciousness evolved into a sea of divine consciousness. In theory, a strong person's divine consciousness could grow infinitely, reaching the ends of the universe. Of course, this was only theoretical. Not even Tang San's original divine consciousness was that strong. A faint smile appeared on Tang San's face, his expression glowing with a gentle divine light. With each flicker of light in his eyes, the spiritual power infused into Mei Gongzi's body grew stronger. Gradually, Mei Gongzi's spiritual power was compressed into a smaller and more harmonious form, with a crystalline core of spiritual power gradually forming in the process. Tang San wouldn't have dared to create a spirit core for her just like that, but with the presence of the celestial plume's trace of divine consciousness, things were different. The divine consciousness stabilized and controlled her spiritual power, allowing the spirit core to form naturally. With a spirit core, it would be much easier to cultivate spiritual power and restore the sea of consciousness in the future. Everything went more smoothly than expected. This was the benefit of their mutual compatibility. Tang San couldn't have achieved this with someone else. The dual infusion of internal energy and spiritual power also made their auras increasingly compatible. After helping Mei Gongzi stabilize the spirit core, Tang San guided the release of spiritual power from the core to communicate with her bloodline power. This would make it easier to control the bloodline power with the enhanced spiritual power. The formation of a spirit core might seem simple, but on the demon continent, very few could achieve it, even among the most powerful. This difference was due to the incompatible cultivation system. On the demon continent, both demon and nymph races focus more on bloodline cultivation after all. Meanwhile, in Tang San's former world, the methods for cultivating spiritual power were better in terms of both variety and quality. Moreover, as a former god king, his understanding of spiritual power and divine consciousness was unparalleled. Things were easy for him, but even an emperor of this world may not be able to replicate them. With these tasks completed, Mei Gongzi's cultivation would undoubtedly advance further. With the birth of the spirit core, as long as she practiced diligently, using both the white tiger transformation and the peacock transformation simultaneously would no longer be a problem. After completing these tasks, Tang San didn't stop. He stabilized his own state, ensuring he was in the best condition. Then, using his spiritual power as a guide, he directed a trace of Mei Gongzi's spiritual power to reverse into his own sea of consciousness. Tang San's sea of consciousness was obviously much larger than Mei Gongzi's, and the spiritual power within was much more solid. Under the protection of his spiritual power, Mei Gongzi's strand of spiritual power slowly entered the core area of his sea of consciousness. If it were anyone other than Mei Gongzi, having their spiritual power invade his own to such an extent would be extremely dangerous for Tang San. But that was Mei Gongzi, and he had no such concerns. Tang San's entire sea of consciousness seemed to breathe rhythmically, with an overall pulsation of spiritual power. However, he didn't hesitate at all and slowly imprinted Mei Gongzi's spiritual power onto his divine consciousness. The moment Mei Gongzi's spiritual power was imprinted onto Tang San's divine consciousness, his body shook violently, and he couldn't help but tremble. It felt as if someone had seared his brain with a hot iron. causing intense pain that made his entire sea of consciousness spasm. His spiritual power surged and instinctively tried to repel the intrusion. Tang San had already prepared for this. He forcibly controlled his divine consciousness, repelling the outer layers of his spiritual power and allowing Mei Gongzi's spiritual power to completely imprint onto his divine consciousness. Without any resistance, with this strand of spiritual imprint on his divine consciousness, there would be a deeper, more direct connection between him and Mei Gongzi than the blood oath. The blood oath only restricted him, but this spiritual imprint would allow him to sense any danger Mei Gongzi faced at any time. If her vital signs showed intense fluctuations, he could immediately sense and locate her, assisting instantly. Through this spiritual connection, he could even help her directly with his divine consciousness. At the same time, this also meant that Tang San was opening his divine consciousness to her. If Mei Gongzi wanted to harm him, she could potentially destroy his divine consciousness through this connection. He would never open himself up to anyone except his wife. Enduring the excruciating pain of his divine consciousness being invaded, Tang San gradually used his divine consciousness to communicate with this strand of spiritual power. He carefully analyzed and unraveled the marks it left on his own spiritual power, the marks of Mei Gongzi. Gradually, Tang San's divine consciousness began to undergo some changes, some wondrous changes. Countless memories and insights surged from within his divine consciousness, lingering in his mind. His perception expanded rapidly with the emergence of these insights. Only Mei Gongzi's spiritual power could stimulate his divine consciousness in this way. They were lovers beyond time and space. No matter how completely she had forgotten him after her rebirth, there was still that invisible bond between them. Countless memories surged through Tang San's sea of consciousness, causing his divine consciousness to tremble continuously. Yet, the presence of these memories gradually made his expression relax and fill with tenderness. He didn't notice the passage of time. When Mei Gongzi reopened her eyes and awakened from her meditation, the sky outside was still bright. She felt an indescribable comfort throughout her body, as if she had soaked in a hot spring and then had a good sleep, feeling completely refreshed and rejuvenated. Next, her spirit was invigorated, and she immediately felt a difference in her spiritual power. The world seemed to have become brighter, and her perception of it had completely changed. Blinking, she focused her inner vision on her sea of consciousness. Mei Gongzi immediately noticed a mote of silver light in her sea of consciousness. It looked like a small crystal emitting a soft glow. Her spiritual power was gathered at its center, leaving a large empty space. The overall density of her spiritual power seemed to have increased significantly. She could sense the space element from a far greater distance than she used to. What is this? What happened to me? What happened to me? Instinctively, she looked at Azura. Compared to her rejuvenated expression, he looked completely different. His face was noticeably pale, and even his clothes seemed soaked with sweat, making him appear utterly exhausted. Although she didn't know the process, Mei Gongzi could guess that he had helped her improve, but it had drained him significantly. At that moment, as if he had sensed Mei Gongzi's awakening, Tang San's eyelids twitched, and he slowly opened his eyes. The instant their eyes met, Mei Gongzi felt a sudden jolt, as if she'd been touched by a little bolt of lightning. Instinctively, she felt a new layer of connection between her and Azura, a particularly familiar and intimate sensation. She remembered feeling this way before, the first time she met little Tang at the academy. Why did Azura suddenly give her the same feeling? Tang San smiled slightly and said, "Awake? We need to hurry." "Huh." Mei Gongzi blinked, not quite understanding. Tang San said, "It's already morning. We still have to participate in the doubles match. We can't waste time. Go freshen up first." The next day, I stayed here all night. Mei Gongzi's face instantly turned red. What would her father think about her not returning all night? Even though they were just cultivating, but thinking about the match, she couldn't afford to dwell on it. She quickly rushed into the bathroom to freshen up. Watching her hurried figure and apple-red cheeks, Tang San smiled slightly and jumped up from the floor. He stretched his body forcefully, and the fatigue in his eyes dissipated. Instead, a gleam of divine light flashed through his eyes, and a smile appeared on his lips. "Mengdidi, huh? Just wait." After Mei Gongzi finished freshening up, Tang San did the same and changed his clothes. At least to Mei Gongzi, his fatigue seemed to have completely vanished, and he appeared vibrant again. When the two of them came to the dining hall for breakfast, they encountered the Shrek Squad, who had just finished eating and were about to head to the sacred mountains for cultivation. Seeing Tang San and Mei Gongzi coming for breakfast together, everyone put on a peculiar expression. Dubai, of course, wanted to say something, but Wu Bingji grabbed him. "Go ahead and eat. We'll be leaving now." Wu Bingji stopped the others from asking questions with a glance, greeted Tang San and Mei Gongzi, and hurriedly left. They didn't misunderstand something, did they? Mei Gongzi's pretty face turned red again. Tang San thought to himself, let them misunderstand, it doesn't matter. But he said, it's fine. They must know we're preparing for the doubles match and we're cultivating together. I've stayed up all night cultivating with them before. It's normal. Hearing this, Mei Gongzi's expression relaxed a bit. As they ate breakfast, Mei Gongzi asked softly, "Big brother, what did you do to me last night?" Tang San was startled and quickly replied, "Huh? I didn't do anything. I mean the cultivation. I feel my spiritual power is different." "Ah, yes, of course. The cultivation. I helped you compress your spiritual power and direct its flow, so your control over it will become stronger. This will help you control your own abilities and the space element better. Your overall spiritual power hasn't decreased at all. It's just become more compact. Next, you need to cultivate to get more volume and fill up your entire sea of consciousness again. Once you complete this step, you'll be laying the foundation for reaching godhood, and you can prepare for a breakthrough to the 10th order." Mei Gongzi stared at him in amazement. Helping someone else compress their spiritual power? Is that even possible? I don't think even my father can do that. Tang San laughed. Just a little trick, nothing special. Mei Gongzi knew it was definitely more than just a little trick, but she also knew that asking him more wouldn't yield much. After all, he also claimed that the mysterious circles of heaven was just a little trick. Aren't you too tired? Can you still compete today? If not, we can forfeit the doubles match. Tang San shook his head with a smile. Since coming to this world, I've never felt better than I do today. Don't worry, I'm fine. No one can stop us. Mei Gongzi looked at him in surprise. Don't push yourself too hard. Tang San smiled. I'm not pushing myself. I'm telling the truth. Don't worry, I've never lied to you. I'm really feeling great. Better than ever. Mei Gongzi felt a bit confused after hearing his words. She clearly remembered how weak he seemed before. Although he appeared fine now, that earlier weakness couldn't have been fake, right? But with the competition time approaching, there was no room for further inquiry. After breakfast, Mei Gongzi directly teleported herself and Tang San to the Grand Ancestral Court Plaza. During the teleportation, she noticed even more changes. Her control over space had become smoother, the teleportation distance had significantly increased, and the range of her perception had increased as well. She had gained so much in just one night. The audience seats were already packed when they arrived at the Ancestral Court Plaza. The doubles matches were even more exciting for the spectators than the individual ones. After all, it wasn't just individual strength that mattered. Equally important, and maybe even more important, was the synergy between partners. Many spectacular combos and battles emerged under such conditions, providing a visual feast for the audience. Now that the finals were starting, the matches were undoubtedly going to be more thrilling. Yesterday's individual competition had fully demonstrated this. How could they not hold high expectations for today's doubles matches? The process was almost the same as yesterday. After arriving, they had to wait for the draw. A total of 32 competitors, forming 16 pairs, entered the final stage. This was twice the number of participants in the individual competition. Tang San immediately spotted Meng Didi, whose strength had left a deep impression on him. Beside Meng Didi was a woman, also dressed in black. Judging by her aura, she seemed to be of the same clan. The darkness element was indeed difficult to pair with other attributes. Its corrosive nature was too strong, and if not handled well, it could easily harm the darkness attribute person's teammate. Therefore, pairing with someone of the same attribute was better. Of course, if they could truly encounter a partner with a light attribute on the same level as Meng Didi, they could work on an opposite polarity move, which would be another situation altogether and result in incredible explosive power. However, the likelihood of this was very low. After all, having a child of darkness didn't necessarily mean there was a child of light. It was not easy to find someone with such a pure elemental talent, and the light attribute was also comparatively rare. Meng Didi was probably the main fighter, while his teammate was just serving as support. Even so, because of Meng Didi's formidable strength, they were also the top contenders for the championship in the doubles competition. If he won in both competitions, he would undoubtedly become the #1 figure among the younger generation. Not only would the Tenebrous Dragon clan support him, but the entire dragon race would also provide immense support. In the future, when he achieved the status of emperor, he would be a leading figure. There were even rumors that if the Crystal Demon Emperor fell and left no successor, the strongest figure of the Empyrean Dominion would very likely be him. This went to show just how extraordinary Meng Didi's talent was. Among all the contestants besides Meng Didi's group, the most noticed were actually Tang San and Mei Gongzi. There was no other reason. They had both made it to the quarterfinals in the singles competition. In the individual matches, no one believed that either of them could pose a threat to Meng Didi's domination. However, the doubles matches were different. Individual prowess was less important than coordination and synergy. Tang San and Mei Gongzi had both advanced to the quarterfinals of the individual matches, and they seemed to trust each other quite a lot. They were more powerful together than they were separately. That went without saying. Being able to participate in both doubles and individual matches, and making it to the final stages in both, Tang San and Mei Gongzi's strength was highly recognized. Thus, public opinion was that they were the most likely to challenge Meng Didi's position in the doubles competition. It looks like we're the hot contenders now. Everyone's watching us. Mei Gongzi whispered to Tang San. Tang San smiled and said, "Then they must all be hoping not to draw us. Do you think we might get matched with Meng Didi's team in the first round?" "Huh." Mei Gongzi was taken aback. "No way." Tang San smiled. "It's fine, it would be good to draw them. 2 matches in one. No? It would save me some effort in the individual matches. Don't be stupid. Wish for something better." Tang San laughed. "It's okay. I have you, don't I? If we really draw them, I'll just have to rely on you." Mei Gongzi gave him the side-eye, but she knew that the probability of drawing Meng Didi was rather low. After all, there were 16 pairs. Their luck couldn't be that bad. Everyone had arrived, and the next step was the lineup for the draw. Surprisingly, today's draw ceremony was not presided over by the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor. He did not seem to be attending today's match. Instead, a handsome middle-aged man was on the podium. Compared to the gentleness of the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, he had a forbidding aura. Even though he was just standing there with a calm expression on his face, his sheer presence made the contestants feel like they couldn't even lift their heads to face him. Mei Gongzi and Tang San stood further back, looking at him. Tang San quietly asked Mei Gongzi, "Is he who I think he is?"
Mei Gongzi nodded lightly.
"My bloodline power tells me it's him." The person responsible for the draw was none other than the 4th-ranked Demon Emperor of the Empyrean Dominion, the heaven-crossing, earth-piercing White Tiger Demon Emperor. And
Mei Gongzi's grandfather.
Upon seeing him, Mei Gongzi's expression clearly changed, and the look in her eyes became more complicated. She had never met this grandfather of hers. All she knew from her mother was that she had run away from him a long time back. As the draw approached, Mei Gongzi became noticeably nervous, instinctively lowering her head and hiding behind Tang San. Finally, it was their turn to draw. Tang San stepped forward and approached the White Tiger Demon Emperor, saying, "Your Majesty." As he began to draw a lot, the White Tiger Demon Emperor glanced at him, then looked at Mei Gongzi, who had her head lowered behind him, and coldly asked, "Where's that girl Su Qin?" Mei Gongzi shivered, but she eventually raised her head. When the White Tiger Demon Emperor saw her stunning face, he was momentarily dazed but quickly regained his composure. Mother is in Kali City," Mei Gongzi said. "Why hasn't she come back to see me? She told me that she couldn't face you. Because she had you back then?" The White Tiger Demon Emperor's voice rose slightly, causing the surrounding contestants to glance over. Mei Gongzi lowered her head and said nothing. "Go fight now," the White Tiger Demon Emperor said indifferently, waving his hand to signal them to leave. Tang San led Mei Gongzi away quickly. The aura of this White Tiger Demon Emperor was truly extraordinary. Among the many Demon Emperors he had seen, this one definitely had the greatest killing intent, and by a large margin. Descending from the podium, Mei Gongzi gently patted her chest. "That scared me to death." Tang San quickly comforted her. "It's okay. However, it seems your grandfather still cares about your mother. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come out to see you right after you showcased the White Tiger transformation yesterday. Taking charge of the draw must be something he volunteered for." Mei Gongzi nodded and said, "Mother said that Grandpa was actually very good to her. However, she was a human and faced a lot of exclusion there, which made her rebellious from a young age. Later, she joined the Redemption Society and refused the marriage Grandpa arranged for her. Then she had me and was too afraid to see Grandpa. so she ran off to Cali City with father. Tang San frowned, feeling that it couldn't be that simple. If the White Tiger Demon Emperor had really been good enough to his future mother-in-law, she wouldn't have left and never returned. There had to be some other reason. Regardless, he could feel that the White Tiger Demon Emperor bore no malice toward Mei Gongzi. Returning to their seats, they waited for the draw results. While Mei Gongzi was still trying to regain her calm after being impacted by the powerful aura of the White Tiger Demon Emperor, the draw results were announced. In the first group, the names of Azura and Mei Gongzi appeared. Then, their opponents were revealed. It was Meng Didi's pair. When Mei Gongzi saw the draw result, she couldn't believe her eyes. She rubbed her eyes and then turned to Tang San. "No way, we really drew them. Remind me, why did I pair up with you and your stupid luck?" Indeed, the two hot favorites for the doubles championship were meeting in the first match of the round of 16. The 3-5 combo against the Tenebrous Dragon duo. It was a clash of titans. Upon seeing the draw results, many of the other contestants breathed a huge sigh of relief. When they looked at Tang San and Mei Gongzi again, there was a hint of schadenfreude in their eyes. Tang San also felt a cold aura, and when he turned his head, he met Meng Didi's gaze. He'd only expected to fight the guy the next day, yet here they were, about to clash right here and now. Tang San gently patted Mei Gongzi's shoulder and said in a deep voice, "We will face whatever comes our way. There's nothing we can't resist." Mei Gongzi calmed herself down and looked at him. What should we do? Facing the biggest favorite in the competition all of a sudden made her a bit nervous, especially after watching Meng Didi's match yesterday. This was only the round of 16. If they lost today's match, it would mean not even making it to the quarterfinals. Furthermore, Tang San would face Meng Didi in the individual matches tomorrow. If they lost today, the chances of him winning tomorrow were slim. It was highly likely that Meng Didi would defeat all three of them, cutting their progress short. Tang San smiled and reassured her, "Let's go with the plan we discussed yesterday. I'll support you, and you take the offensive." Mei Gongzi took a deep breath. "I have one ability I've never used before. It's the strongest ability of our Peacock Demon clan, the Celestial Dance. It can intercept destiny to a certain extent and apply it in battle. But I've only just begun to master it and can't fully control it yet. I need the Celestial Plume to assist me. I can support you too." "No, it's okay. I'll support you. You attack freely, and I'll help with defense and support. In today's battle, don't use the White Tiger transformation. Just stick with the Peacock transformation. When necessary, I'll guide you. And when I do, you must trust me completely. No matter what kind of power I use on you, don't resist it." Without a moment's hesitation, Mei Gongzi agreed immediately. Azura had done so much for her, and thanks to his blood oath, her trust in him was as solid as could be. As she looked into his calm eyes, Mei Gongzi's heart gradually settled. A companion's steadiness could often influence the other. No matter how powerful the enemy was, they hadn't reached godhood, had they? As long as the opponents weren't proper gods, there was a chance of victory. Thinking of this, Mei Gongzi's mood gradually calmed. She silently adjusted her bloodline power and spiritual power, trying to get herself into the best possible condition to perform at her peak in the upcoming match. As soon as the draw results were announced, the entire audience erupted. To the spectators, what should have been a highlight of the last match was now happening in the round of 16. But this also showcased the fairness of the Ancestral Court Elite Tournament. Draws were supposed to be random, weren't they? The 3-5 combo versus the Tenebrous Dragon duo, a clash of titans, was about to begin. Today, Big Cat hadn't come to watch the match due to recovering from injuries. Otherwise, he would have been just as nervous. Since they were drawn to be the first match, Tang San and Mei Gongzi were led to the waiting area by the staff. Meng Didi and Meng Didi's team should be waiting on the other side of the competition stage. The referees appeared. Unlike the individual matches, this time there were two referees, both great demon kings. Clearly, this was because the overall combat power in the doubles matches was higher, and the Ancestral Court was worried that one referee wouldn't be able to control the match if it got too intense. Reaching the top 16 meant they were the elite of the elite. For the Ancestral Court, such losses were unacceptable. Thus, the unspoken rule was that no contestants could die in the final stages. At a staff member's signal, Tang San and Mei Gongzi took the stage together. On the other side, Meng Didi also went up. As it turned out, his companion was not just from the same clan, but his actual sister Meng Deshi. The moment both sides stepped onto the stage, a wave of cheers erupted around them. From the moment the draw ended, The audience had been eagerly anticipating this match. As the first match of the day, it instantly sent all the spectators into a state of excitement. Whoever won this match would most likely become the final champion. Moreover, tomorrow's individual match featured a confrontation between Tang San and Meng Didi. Today's outcome would undoubtedly impact the matches tomorrow. If one side was seriously injured, tomorrow's match might not even be held. Thus, all the attention was focused on today's match. For the audience, Mei Gongxi's dual bloodline was also a hot topic. Yesterday, she won easily, directly defeating a contestant from the Netherman Flower clan, showcasing the powerful white tiger transformation. Her popularity was not much lower than Meng Didi's. As for Azura, he gave the audience a complex feeling. His bloodline abilities didn't seem to be any more powerful than those of his opponents. In fact, in some cases, they were even weaker. However, he always managed to end the battles by cutting off the opponent's combat power in close-quarters combat. He didn't seem that strong, yet here he was, among the top 16 in both the individual and the doubles matches. The two referees stood on either side of the field. Once both sides were in position, one of the great Demon Kings said in a deep voice, "Try to avoid casualties during the match. Begin." If this match weren't between these two teams, that sentence wouldn't have been said. It was added because both teams were indeed very powerful. These great Demon Kings understood better than the average audience that anyone who reached the top 16 in the individual matches was definitely not a mediocre fighter, let alone people like Azura, the Peacock Princess, or Meng Didi, who were among the final 8. Although Azura seemed to have no particularly powerful abilities, they could not forget the opponents he had defeated in the group stages. The Golden Mammoth, the Behemoth, the Scorching Sunflower, each of them was a popular contestant expected to reach the finals, yet they all lost to him. How could a weakling have done something like that? It was absurd. Meng Didi, the top favorite to win both tournaments, was even more impressive. From the beginning of the competition until now, he had clearly never used his full strength, winning every match with ease. So, in today's Clash of Titans, who would emerge victorious? Even the emperors in the VIP boxes were very interested, and each had their own theories and favorites. In the VIP section, the Peacock Great Demon King sat up straight, his eyes fixed intensely on the competition stage. A somewhat cold voice reached his ears. "Do you think your daughter can win?" The Peacock Great Demon King turned to look at the edge of his VIP box and replied coldly, "Of course." The voice from the other box spoke up again. "I don't think so. Meng Didi is the dragon race's greatest hope, and he is supported not only by the tenebrous dragon clan. With the Crystal Demon Emperor's vitality gradually declining, the dragon race needs to cultivate someone who can rival the Crystal Demon Emperor to secure their top position among the demons. In terms of talent, Meng Didi is the most likely candidate and is determined to win this championship." The Peacock Great Demon King said indifferently, "Then let's wait and see. My daughter's talent is not inferior. Aren't you afraid that her excellent talent might lead to an untimely death?" retorted the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor. "Are you threatening me? If that's what you think, then yes," the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor said coldly. "If her talent wasn't that exceptional, I might spare her for Su Qin's sake. But since her talent is so great, do you think I'd raise a tiger that could bite me later? Please, you think I won't act against her just because she has the White Tiger Demon Emperor's bloodline? You had her use the White Tiger bloodline just to threaten me, and let me tell you, it won't work. The White Tiger Demon Emperor won't interfere with Kali City's matters. That's the Ancestral Court's decision." The Peacock Great Demon King said coldly, "Then bring it on. You'll see why I chose her as my successor. Letting her showcase her abilities is to make you realize she's a threat, yet you'll have no way to deal with her. Do you really think I am stupid?" The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor was stunned for a moment, clearly not expecting such a response from the Peacock Great Demon King. "I don't know where your confidence comes from, but let's wait and see. First, pray that your daughter wins today's match, or perhaps you should pray she loses. If she loses, I might consider sparing her." The Peacock Great Demon King's eyes flickered, and he said nothing more, focusing all his attention on the competition stage. With the referee's announcement of the start, today's main event officially began. On one side of the stage, the siblings Meng Didi and Meng Deshi simultaneously released deep purple auras, dark domains. Meng Deshi could also use this domain. When they activated it together, the two domains complemented each other, merging and surging forward. The deep purple swept across the stage, causing the air to feel heavy and dispersing and corroding all other types of elemental energy. On the other side, Tang San stepped forward and placed his right hand on Mei Gongzi's back. Mei Gongzi felt a rich and gentle power flow into her body. Her bloodline power surged instantly. The sensation was the same as what she had experienced in the last doubles match. But this time, the amplification was significantly greater. She could sense the areas being eroded by darkness in the distance, hearing the lament of space, and feeling the presence of a vast expanse of space. The celestial plume in her hand quivered in the air, and the three eyes emitted a soft silver glow. All the surrounding space elemental energy immediately swarmed toward her. The enhancement Tang San provided her was not only in terms of bloodline power, but also spirit. She felt as if she had merged with Tang San behind her. The familiarity she had felt before became deeper and more moving, as if two warm arms were embracing her and lifting her up. All the anxiety, fear, and other negative emotions vanished in an instant, leaving only a profound sense of inner strength. Her sea of consciousness spread out, with the crystal core radiating light. Behind her own spirit core, she felt an even larger core that was continuously injecting vast amounts of spiritual power into her. In the spectator's view, Tang San seemed to have disappeared into the shadow behind Mei Gongzi. Her entire body radiated a brilliant silver light, which expanded into beams of silver rays. Under the cover of that silver radiance, she looked holy, as if she were the very messenger of heavens. The dazzling silver light illuminated the surrounding space, causing it to start showing slight distortions. These distortions blocked the darkness onslaught from the opposite side, forcibly resisting the dark domain and preventing it from crossing the midpoint. Space clashed with darkness. Mei Gongzi didn't have a domain of her own, yet she somehow managed to hold back a union of two compatible domains. Although the sea of darkness was still advancing slowly, the overwhelming momentum it had before was significantly curbed. On Mei Gongzi's forehead, the peacock golden crown radiated brilliant light. The deep golden color turned into platinum, adorned with even more splendid patterns that almost covered her entire forehead. Her eyes, once peacock blue, now shimmered with a dazzling silver hue. Her delicate body slowly floated upward, and the celestial plume in her hand acted like a magic wand, guiding a massive amount of space energy to converge toward her. At this moment, the entire competition stage seemed to be split in two. One side was a deep purple, and the other was a dazzling silver. The two powerful elements clashed, creating a strange sense of mutual oppression that was truly spectacular. The 500-meter diameter stage looked like a division between two realms, showcasing the formidable strength of both sides. This was no longer the power of the Ninth Order. There was no doubt that both sides had touched the threshold of divinity, and not any ordinary divinity at that. Meng Didi and Meng Deshi also floated up. From the corners of Meng Didi's eyes, faint purple ripples spread outward. His right hand slowly pushed forward, and instantly, the dark power surged and roared, pouring out like a tide, breaking through the center and forcibly crashing into the silver light on the opposite side. During the confrontation, it became clear to him that while the opponent was powerful, it wasn't domain power, just pure elemental control. The difference between a domain and power that did not condense into a domain was significant. A domain elevated the element that was its attribute, and as an elemental avatar, who had a deeper understanding of elemental control than Meng Didi. The intense darkness suddenly rushed into the silver area, immediately causing a depression at the center of the silver light. Like a purple-black dragon, it then broke through the center, rampaging forward. Mei Gongzi's eyes shone with silver light as she waved the celestial plume with her right hand. The vast spatial power rippled into many silver rings, enveloping the massive black energy. One after another, the silver ripples were eroded and disappeared in the darkness. But more silver ripples continued to appear, causing the darkness to quietly disappear. It was as if the dragon was being slowly devoured by space. The next moment, Mei Gongzi's celestial plume suddenly slashed vertically, and instantly, a line of silver light appeared in front of her. The silver light line split space open, revealing a silver portal with splendid light edges. A similar portal appeared in another place, right behind Meng Didi and Meng Deshi. In the next instant, all the silver light suddenly dispersed, and a silver figure materialized out of thin air, carving out a silver space in the world filled with darkness as it directly appeared behind the two. A spatial door had been opened within the dark domain, and within the space impacted by this door's energy, the dark domain was ineffective. Even Meng Didi didn't expect Mei Gongzi to choose such a move, but as he sensed the spatial fluctuations behind him, he instantly turned around. Mei Gongzi had already appeared out of nowhere, The celestial plume in her hand transformed into countless energy blades, enveloping Meng Didi and his sister. The vast space power originally on the other side of the stage surged out from the spatial door behind her, fiercely impacting the surrounding dark domain. It forcibly opened up a wide area within the dark domain, isolating Meng Didi and his sister from their own domain. This scene could only be described as miraculous. The audience, who initially didn't think highly of Mei Gongzi and Azura's chances, couldn't help but gape. With just this move, Mei Gongzi demonstrated her mastery over space, seemingly on par with Meng Didi's control over darkness. It was an incredibly bold and daring move to fight deep within the enemy's domain. Faced with this situation, Meng Didi didn't panic. He pulled Meng Deshi behind him and grasped the air with his right hand, and a pitch-black long saber appeared in his hand. The blade slashed out, and purple-black saber energy erupted in the air, destroying the silver blades filled with space power. The dark domain surged inward, pressuring the space bubble created by Mei Gongzi in order to prevent her from using her full force against Meng Didi. Instead of focusing on attacking, she now had to resist the encroaching dark domain.